The first is that we have translation services. So you don't have to listen in English, you can listen in any of the official languages, or I'll tell you which ones actually that we've got. We've got English, we've got Afrikaans, we've got Chivenda, we've got Tsonga, we've got Setswana, Sepedi, isiZulu, and Xhosa. So if you need a translation service, you just need to put up your hand and one of our team members will give you the headphones and the device so that you can get a translation. Please note you can't leave with those devices. Those same headphones are not going to work on your phone or anything else like that. They only work on these translation devices because it's actually a little out of date, so it won't work with anything else. So if you want on the translation, channel 1 is English, channel 2 is Afrikaans, channel 3 is Chivenda and Tsonga, channel 4 is Setswana and Sepedi, channel 5 is isiZulu and isiXhosa. So if you need that translation services, I'm going to welcome our stakeholders in just a moment. I need to declare the precinct and then I'm going to ask honorable members to introduce themselves. So because we're not physically in the legislature, it's important that we do declare the area as part of the Gauteng provincial legislature. And that's important because it means that all the rules of the legislature govern this particular engagement. I, Honorable Fasiya Hassan, Chairperson of the COGTA and eGov Portfolio Committee, hereby declare the Lord Kanile Community Hall as the precinct of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature in terms of Rule 56.2 of the Standing Rules, version 5, read together with Section 2.1 and Section 28 of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act. For the duration of this meeting, this place will be the precinct of the Gauteng Legislature, and thus the standing rules of the legislature will apply and govern all engagements of the day. So I think that's quite clear. We've declared it. I'm now going to officially open our public meeting and our public hearing. I'm going to allow for a quick moment of silent prayer or meditation to ensure that we have a smooth and fruitful public hearing. It also helps everyone settle in. So let's take a moment of silence. Okay, thank you very much. Now that I've officially opened the meeting, I want to introduce honorable members, or rather they can introduce themselves, and then I'll get through to whoever else is joining us. Let's start with you, Member Diache, and move this way.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Nico Diache. I'm a member of the committee, and I apologize for being late, Chair. I just had a party meeting to attend to. Thank you.
Good morning, Sanbonani, Kamalami, Honorable Pinky Mngube, member of the committee.
Thank you very much, members. And again, my name is Chairperson Fasiya Hassan. I also am a member of this committee and chair it as well. I want to start with an apology from us. We have been informed that the Speaker and the Treasury have met and they've decided on 1 meal per day in terms of these engagements. So we can't do breakfast and lunch. We're now going to do an earlier lunch to try and circumvent that. But unfortunately, this was a decision well above our heads. I think we all know we'd rather use that money for service delivery issues. And I think that was part of the thinking of where we find ourselves today. So do bear with us. There is water, and we've asked for the lunch catering to be served earlier so that we are able to accommodate that change. Right, I'm going to welcome the MEC in his absentia. I know there's an apology. I'll speak to that in just a moment. But with us, we've got the National and Provincial Department of COGTA, wherein this bill comes from. And we've also got our support staff present, as well as from the legislature, our legal representation, from the NCOP element as well. From the National Department of COGTA, we have the Chief Director, Mr. Nhlamulo Matiye. He's accompanied by Mr. Sianda Nketli and Mr. Wandile Komalo. From the Provincial Department of COGTA, we have the Chief Director, Mr. Kiba Kikana, who is the acting HOD today, and he's accompanied by a number of senior managers from this department. The Honorable NMEC unfortunately has tendered his apology for this public hearing. He's attending an electricity switch on program with the Premier, which is taking place at exactly the same time as us. But I especially want to welcome you guys, who are our esteemed stakeholders, who've taken the time to engage with us on this particular bill and why it's important. I'm going to start by acknowledging to Chief Mbele from the Sokolumi Amandebele Banzuza. Chief Mbele, you are welcomed. We have stakeholders from Katlehong, Palm Ridge, Orlando East, Rondebolt, Leondale, Ward 13 in Ikuruleni, Orlando West, Langkloof, Ward 105, Tshwane, Ward 18, Orlando West, Ward 40, and of course from Ivory Park, who are the hosts of today's public hearing. We also have stakeholders from Orange Farm, Pumula Extension 21, Ikuruleni Ward 63, and Tshwane Ward 105. If I haven't acknowledged your area, you feel free to please let our team know, and they'll make sure that I do in fact welcome you. We are also streaming live, if I'm correct, on the GPL YouTube channel. So if anyone who wants to join who can't physically be here, you're welcome to join us on our YouTube channel. If anyone is tuned in, this is to you. You are welcome to write comments on the YouTube comment section if you have any questions or clarities on the bill. That also counts as public participation, and we will be looking at it. I've got the team who will be looking at those comments. So please feel free, to those who are tuned in virtually, to engage on this particular bill. We're going to now move to the apologies. It's the permanent delegate, Honorable Mutsamai. He sends his apologies. He's directly from the NCOP, as they are attending a sitting in Parliament where the Minister of Finance is tabling the budget. So many of you will hear about that throughout the day as well. HOD, the actual HOD, Dr. Barclay, is also scheduled for engagements with national government in Cape Town for the same reasons. And I think, Mamdombi, are there any other apologies we need to note? I know there were a few on the group. And there's a few other members, Member Malema and others, who are also with the finance portfolio, who I'm told are in Cape Town for the budget. So there are a number of members who are engaged, but you've got three of us, and I would say we're the most active of the committee. So you are in very good hands with us. All right, I'm going to go straight into the purpose of the public hearing. You're going to be receiving a presentation from the Department of COGTA on this document. I think you all have it, right? This is the Independent Municipal Demarcation Bill. And I'm going to quickly high-level talk to it. It sounds like a lot of words, but effectively, it's how we determine ward areas or branch areas. And it's very important because this particular bill, which also comes in all our official languages, remember, if you are struggling with English, you can just put your hand up. They'll give you a translation service. But effectively, this particular bill seeks to repeal or replace, rather, the Local Government Municipal Demarcation Act, a previous one, so that we can align and update the legislation with the current demarcation board practices. It's also to try and make it more fair. I know sometimes it does happen. It happened in my own home ward where it was cut in half and nobody knew how, why, what. So that's very important for service delivery, but it's also very important for us as community members, right? Because you need to know who your councillor is, you need to know how you report issues, you need to know where you fit in the grander scheme of things. And this bill is about determining those ward limitations. It's a number of other things, but it's going to bring it in line with more independent and fair processes. So you can't just wake up one day and then, you're in a different ward. In theory, that can't happen. Right, I'm now moving to agenda point 5, which is the crux and the meat of it. We're going to receive a presentation by the Provincial Department of COGTA on this particular bill. I'm going to hand over to the acting HOD, Mr. Kiba Kikana. Can I get a translation service here in the front? Translation services? Okay, anyone who needs a translation service, you can just put up your hand and we'll make sure it gets to you. Right, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Kikana. I see you there, but I don't know if you're going to come up here to present. I want you to introduce yourself nicely so that our community and stakeholders know who you are. Over to you, Mr. Kikana. think come here. How are you going to present standing with the laptop?
Okay.
Maybe just come sit here.
Maybe I must. Maybe I must.
Right, let's settle down. This is the meat of why we're here today. I know we're hot. I know that. We must open the doors and, you have some water. So I know the team is now delivering that. But we just need to be a little bit patient with each other. Right, Mr. Kikana, take us through. Can we confirm, is the presentation able to flight? Can I see it up here first? Right, over to you, Mr. Kekana. So this is effectively, it's this, but he's going to explain it to us and what each thing means and why it's important. So it's the same thing, but it's the more understandable version. Over to you, Mr. Kekana, officially.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, honorable members, colleagues, and Lesi Chawakamuka Kakaretso. Kitsamayale, my colleagues from the department, Labor National Department, Tikivale, we're sitting together. Kalibitso Kikiba Kekana, responsible for, Chief Director responsible for intergovernmental relations and policy research, governance, traditional affairs. But today, KMMO represent HOD Dr. Darion Buckley. Re tlo bolela ka bill ka molao kakanywa o e leng hore o beilwe moo. The main intention ke hore ditaba tsa demarcation ha re bolela ka demarcation re bolela ka mokgwa e leng hore di-ward tse re di tsebang gore na le ward mang mo Tembisa, re na le ward number mang le ward number mang. Di-ward tseo di ke mmereko wa demarcation authority or demarcation board. Ge re bolela ka gore masepala wa rena wa city of Joburg o tloga mo kae o fitlha mo kae ke boundary a se border ke ya national. So mo re bolela ka di-boundaries le di-delimitations tsa di-ward. Batho ba leng responsible ho tla ka molao o ke ba ko national. Re tsamaya le bona ba mola, I'm sure le bona ba tla kry opportunity ya he ho na le di-questions or ya ho fa input. Now, the presentation, the first part, you will like a outline. This is the outline. What is it that we are going to cover? How will like this bill? The name of the bill is Independent Municipal Demarcation Authority Bill. So, the purpose and the objective. Why this bill? Establishing an authority moritabentsa demarcation. The second part, re tlo bolela ka gore e establishwa byang mebereko ya ona di functions, the powers le the powers tse na leng tsona le authority. Re tlo bolela hape ka gore e tsamaisiwa byang ka board ka the administration and le di tšhelete tsa yona. And then the next section re tlo bolela ka municipal boundary demarcation. Come go get tlhalositseng ko mathomong la bona ke di-point tse 4 tse re tla beng re di lebeletse.
Sorry, Chief Director, apologies. I've just been informed that there's a challenge with the Zulu translation, the Zulu Xhosa translation. Our team is working on it, so our apologies. Or is it the Sotho one? It's the Zulu and the Sotho line. So that is channel 5. Yes, channel 5, there's a challenge. Our team is looking at it. Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted our community to know We're aware of the problem. We're trying to fix that. And then if it persists, we're going to have to come up with another plan. But apologies, Mr. Mr. Gikana, for interrupting you, but we are working on that challenge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ke tla leka hore ke hatelle thata ka Mosotho, mola le mola ke tla zama le ho khuluma seZulu. Kara ke re Setebele se sa etsho se sa Mokopane le seZulu ke part ya Nguni, so ke tla leka ka matla. So ke ne ke sa le mo outline point number 3 e ke reng ke municipal boundary demarcation. Re tlo lebella di point tse 4 criteria gore ke eng dilo tse re di lebellang he re determine or re redetermine the municipal boundaries. Because o ka se no tloha wa re ke lebella something o sena criteria. Go tshwana le re fa batho di-bursary, re na le criteria. So criteria ke dintlha tse, so re tlo lebella yona. And then determination le redetermination. Motho a ka iputsisa hore why re re determination le redetermination. He selo se se teng wa se determiner, he se le teng o se reviewer, wa se redetermine, o se lebella hape. So it will be something to that effect. And then the most important thing, e re nang le yona le today ka jeko la e bona, ke public participation for the determination or redetermination. I think an important aspect, a people-centered democracy society, mo e leng hore ke mmuso wa batho ka batho for batho. So this public participation is very important because once you know what, it affects us. He una le masipala una di boundaries, they are affected. Gore wela ko Joburg, ko Tshwane, ko Ekurhuleni, Sedibeng, or ko West Rand. So we are being affected. Delimitation of wards and demarcation appeals authority. So delimitation at the wards ke yona eo ya ho lebella di wards gore di ka bua ko kae ho ka irahala eng e nngwe e tsena ko kae nngwe ko kae. So ke ho lebella moo. But the most other important factor ke ya appeals authority. Gore ha dilo di sa utlwana, ho irahetse something, this authority through this board e rile something, re sa kgotsofala, re kgona ho boela hape re ye ko structureng se ba se bitsang appeals board. So re tlo lebella moo. Municipal capacity assessment, ho lebellwa bokgoni bo masepala o na le mbona gore o ka performa di-function tsa yone. He o sa kgone ho ira selo, ba re you are incapacitated. O tshwane le nna ke bereka so, ge nka ho bala ka motlhong, ka re mmereko wa ko montši kwa o berekisa tlhogo, matlho le ho nahana le ho ngwala dilo. He di ka palelwa ka ho bala tlhogo, ba tlo re ke incapacitated. So capacity assessment, ko lebella re masepala o re nang le ona, ka mokgwa o leng ka teng, o capacitated. O na le bokgoni bo le matla ao a o ira se tshwantseng o se dira di bitswa di-capacity assessment tse e leng gore di a iriwa tse di thusang MEC le minister gore ba bone gore ge o na le local le national ke e feng e na leng capacity ya re ka ba yone e ka deliverang fire and rescue services or ya ba yone e ka deliverang a service ya o tshwana le who ira dintlo, human settlements. So it depends on capacity assessment. We have to do that capacity assessment first. Then, ke recommendation to the committee. Then the next slide, the purpose here bill. I'm sure la wana le hona mo ko mathomong ke ho provide for the establishment of the independent municipal demarcation authority. Le ho seta criteria ka mokgwa ke boletseng. Ntho e kgolo e tshwantseng re hopole ke bolella ko pele, I know my colleagues ba ko national ke point e ne ba tlo thomang ka yona ya hore ntho e etsiwang mo is constitutional. Re kra ka mo gare ga molaotheo ya rena e reng re tshwanetse re set up an independent authority for matters of demarcation. So as in ntho iriwang fela. Ra tseba hore mo South Africa wa re constitutional democracy, anything e re irang e le molao e ka ba eng e tshwanetse e fite ko constitution. He sa fiti ko constitution any member of society, organizations, bakatsia tabe o ba re, this act I compliant le constitution re kgopela busetswe morao. So that is why bangwadi ba molao ba bone gore tshwantse ba derive the mandate, everything from the constitution. So it is in the constitution ke re bolela ka the establishment of this authority. Gore why e tshwanetse be independent is because a ya tshwanela gore influence ke motho ka gore e decide mo batho ba tlo dulang mo teng, mo batho ba tla beng ba phelang mo teng, mo di-taxes tsa bona di tla be di berekisiwang mo teng. So that is why go na le this independent, and then ko mafelelong e bolela ka authority. Independent but e na le maatla, the authority ha e boletse ka taba eo, unless otherwise re sa kgotsofale re kana ra ya ko di-court. So those are the 5 points tse di leng mo, I'm sure ra di bona, ke ya establishment, the functions le di-powers tsa this independent municipal demarcation authority. Ke something ene re sena yone. So create an institution who e re tlo e bitsang ko mafelong re go na le independent municipal demarcation authority. Bona baneng ke authority ke bill ko mafelong because ke molao ka kanywa. It's not yet an act of parliament. It's still going through the processes. Le ha re le mo ke part e nngwe ya di-processes ya di-consultations. So once e ba molao re tla be mo South Africa re na le an independent municipal demarcation authority. E na le di-structures tsa yona go tshwana le board, go tshwana le administration fela bjalo fela bjalo. So tse ding tse setse ke boletse ka tsona re kana ra ya go the next slide ke di coverile ko slide number 1, and then more the next slide, let me, okay, no, it's fine. Go here. So mo ke chapter 2 because re coverile ko mathomo mo chapter 2, establishment, status, functions and powers of the authority. I think it's very much important. Once you understand this part, now what is the status? Re-establish status sa yona ke eng, maemo a yona ke eng mo ditabeng tsa demarcation, maatla a yona ke a mafeng a e fiwang ke yona ke molao, and then le mebereko ya yona, di-functions e tlo ira eng. He ba re bitsa ba re go na le demarcation authority or demarcation board ba tla ba re biletsa eng ke mmereko yana ke eng. So the authority consists, once we establish go tla re go na le an independent municipal demarcation authority, o tlo bona ka e go na le boto, go na le administration ya go tsamaisa day to day mmereko, and then go na le staff. So authority tlo e bona ka board, and then tlo e bona ka administration ke ba ba tsamaisang everyday issues. O tshwana le rena ke bereka ko COGTA, re part ya administration re. And then here lebella legislature re bona go na le, you know, the executive depending on powers and functions, go na le authority ko godimo ko. But the administration e ira ke rona mo na le di HOD and the structures, the staff. So that is why those 4 points, those 3 points are important: board, administration, and the staff. Okay, clause 3. Status of the authority, clause 4. The authority is a constitutional institution listed under Schedule 1 of the Public Finance Management Act. La bona re a se ntho e re sokang fela la e bona ne ke boletse ka yona ke re it matla a yona a tswa mo constitutioneng go tshwana le masepala, matla a masepala ke chapter 7 of the constitution, and then the chapter 3 institutional le tsona ra itsewa, chapter 9 e bo public protector, IEC, and all those that are protecting democrats. So this one, matla a yona, the authority, it's a constitutional institution. Schedule 1 ya Public Finance Management Act. How tshwere act eo ya Public Finance Management o ka lebella Schedule 1. o tlo utlwa ba bolela ka this. That is very important. Le motho wa botsisa re re it's a constitutional institution. Then the authority must. Wa bona mo heri ra molao, ho bona dilwara di bolela batho ba molao. O tlo utlwa ba berekiswa bo must, bo may, bo shall, bo will. Mantswe ao a na le go mean something different. But once somebody says must is an obligation. Gore a una choice. You have to do it that way because it's a must. About may, nkanaka and nkanaka say. But come must, you are compelled, you are obligated. So this one says the authority must be independent. So everything that we do, Kamalaw, we must jealously guard gore be independent. Her ka bona hona le something re nahanang gore e ira gore se ka ba independent, then it's something that we need to raise so that ba ba ngwalang molao, the drafters of the law must take that into consideration because e ka se pass ko constitutional court if e le gore hona le something e bontshang gore is not independent. So throughout this act we'll be looking at the independence and then we'll be looking at the authority municipal demarcation institution. Functions of the authority, clause 5, to determine, redetermine municipal boundaries. Let's give For more currently, the municipal boundaries. Ne? We know what it, let me use city of Joburg because you are in the city. Okay, Joburg, it falls under the city of Joburg, ne? Right? City of February next door, city of Tshwane, and the other municipalities. So already, the municipal boundaries, just already decided then, right? So they are already determined, these boundaries. But to go on redetermination, because maybe the capacity assessment, and then the Municipal perform this, maybe the boundaries have to be redetermined. So this is going to be the main function that authority, the municipal demarcation, the independent municipal demarcation, to delimit wards for municipalities. Let's say the her voter local government elections, we vote on the ward councillors or vote the ward in Zarena and then the district in Zarona. So this is a process of determining those wards, but also to render services, advisory services, and to conduct municipal capacity assessment. The board on matters of demarcation, it authority. They can provide an advice. Na submission but bona they can provide advice. But come corner demarcate municipal does not make sense, does not make economic sense, does not make socio-economic sense. Let's look at it differently, then by level differently. So it is when you do those, you provide that. Capacity assessment, if I were to say, in a process of partnering the current municipal demarcation board as is for really capacity assessments. The last time we did it was in 2018-2019 financial year. So next year, this financial year, Tomangadi one in April, will be doing the municipal capacity assessments. Because the district is a pedity. The function is about feeling locally, local districting. Are they correct or not correct? So you guys say MEC or a minister, what I will learn as what's the municipal capacity assessment. So I want to mark this demarcation authority independent. So and then powers and the authority clause 6, the authority like this constitutional institution, this authority has powers to determine its own staff establishment and appoint its employees. Created institution the power to determine its staff. Entity create really department ya COCTA, Mareri create the powers. Rena ke rena ba ro secondant staff ro determine ba appoint through rena abana the powers tsa staff establishment. But this authority will have the powers tsa staff establishment. So they will have those powers there. And then to obtain by agreement services of any person or any organ of state. How about anybody? How about partner at the department, government, ba batla ho appoint a mamma because o na le expertise o etsang ba ka mo appoint as for as long as they do that within the ambit of the law ba ira ka mo fasa molao to acquire or dispose any right in or to property. So ba ka acquire a property in their name, ba ka e rekisa, ba ka e dispose as long as they follow the laws that are there. To open and operate its own bank account as an authority, Pascar Bank Cheleta Wanaita through Bank ya National Cocta. So they have the powers to open as an authority their own bank account, to perform legal acts, institute or defend any legal action. If somebody have a colota, they can litigate, they can go to the courts, they can go anywhere. As a legal person, the entity is a legal person. So it will have the right to everything in its own name. Or it can be sued as well. To collect and disseminate relevant information. To create its own information management systems so that it can communicate, can get feedback, can inform, it can educate. So we can go to the next slide. Chapter 2, board. Now, re tsena mo ditabeng meno. Ka re board-o ke yona e tlabeng e rana di-affairs tsa the authority. So e tlabe e composiwa bjang ko clause 7. The board consists of no fewer than 7 members and no more than 10 members. So if create a board, it's either to one over 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. They can't be less than 7, they can't be more than 10. So get board then go back and by publisher mabitso bona ke bo manko kai kai. And then bar ke bo muket. Ho ka kra bar ke baba 11, you must know it's illegal. Eba kare ke 6, it's illegal. Because it must be no fewer than 7, not more than 10. The board must represent the broad composition of South Africa and also have a diverse pool of knowledge on demarcation. My colleagues from National, Babangwetse Molao, Barimpele, regional, something like a regional should reflect regional, I think, representation, something like that. So, but now, Manswabo regional, I to see it because, Kamomina Hano Nyawang, he were regional, but Wanahano Kare, but to chance about mo. Or this particular group. No. So the interpretation was confusing. Now there is clarity. Representation. It must reflect the broad South African society. How level South African society is constitution, a non-racial, democratic, a non-sexist, united country. But the emphasis is on non-racial, must be democratic, must also be non-sexist, must be united. So when you see that board, it must reflect what is in the constitution, and those aspects that I've referred to. So how you have a board to transfer as well. Right, board, you must be practical. In that board, 7 Afrikaner males, then there's a problem. In that board, 7 black Africans or 7 black Indians, 7 black colors, 7 this and this. So you must know it does not reflect the broad South African society. So that is what this clause says. All right? And then the responsibility is clause 8. The board is responsible for corporate the institution. The board, it's a decision, it's a very serious. The most important thing is corporate governance of the authority. Pascari, mismanagement, finances, there's no accountability, staff who appoint you are not on merit, favors your families, that's just corruption or those kind of issues. So corporate governance, there are every day resubmitted. Auditor General, you must get those finances right. Staff policies, there must be those things, staff policies in place, performance bonuses, policies, everything related to an organization must be found. Then the board is responsible. If it's not but say our remunerations policy, then there's a problem. Our conditions of service that are clarified, then there's a problem. So give on the corporate governance. And then it's steering the authority and setting the strategic direction. Hona no le rona go governmenting ra thoma re prenela ngwaho mompsha, and then hanchiri ra the 5-year strategic plan. Municipalities will do the process of 5-year IDPs after the elections. Every year they review the IDPs because finally mayoral committee under the mayor who is responsible for that. But finally council must also say we approve and we allocate resources in the form of a budget. So that kind of a process the board must do on behalf of the authority. Right? So, and then overseeing and monitoring the implementation, execution of policy and planning by the authority. Because the authority is the institution. Now the board must oversee or why implement what the policy study approving, what accountability around that, and then they also have the implementation plans. Right? Qualifications of board members, clause 9. A member of the board must be a South African citizen. So, it's clear, ne? You guys appointed somebody from a citizen in China. But don't allow to South Africa by they are Chinese, but they are South African citizens. Ne? So the emphasis is on South African citizen. The only people with the authority of citizenship is Home Affairs. So we can check the Home Affairs. South Africa. Then they will get authority. If Renale Pelaelo, because Robatseva, our publisher Mavichawona, you know Rentate Donald Mukandawiri. As a South African, we're not, you think because Mukandawiri is Zambian, Malawian, we're not as a South African. They go to Home Affairs. Bagralo is naturalized. He's a South African because the authority lies there. So that is the point that we want to make and have the necessary qualification. I think that is very important. Get part of corporate governance. So necessary qualifications, experience, demarcation, knowledge in relation to development, planning, local government, or municipal finances, services, and planning. I know the issue of ICT is also raised somewhere. That's part of that. Because remember how Dilaka demarcation, the map, GIS systems and what, from the top, topography, all of these things. And then key information about local systeming, it produces something. There are so many people in this work, so ICT knowledge is part of it. I'm just raising it so that in case it doesn't come through this, you must know it is there as part of that experience and knowledge and understanding. The following persons are disqualified. You know, you are under curatorship, you are insolvent, you are holding a political office, you are a full-time employee of the state like myself, full-time employee of the state. Barclays and Z83 and you are appointed full-time. So you are excluded and convicted of crime. So if they publish the name and you know this person was declared insolvent by a court of law, a delinquent director, local company as well, director delinquent, they did not manage their finances well, then raise that point so that this person's name must be removed or he was convicted of a crime. So you must raise these issues. The next slide. Okay. The next slide is appointment of board members. Before members of the board, that is clause 10, are appointed, the minister responsible in this instance is the minister or in our COCTA at the national level. But minister responsible must publish a notice in the Gazette. Gazette ke kuranta ya mmuso. Ska o chose ba re selo ke Gazette. Gazette ke newspaper ya mmuso ke mo re publishang dilo tsa rena tsa mmuso. Tender di eng what publisha molao di notice fela jwalo, so ke kuranta mmuso, publish in the Gazette, and in a newspaper advertisement. The newspaper tse re di tsebang ka ba Sowetan, ka ba Telling Kanakin the newspaper, Ravala online, what Sunday Times, City Press, etc., community newspapers that we know. So publish an advert to invite applications or nominations. O bona re ka se re go spirine, a ke la bona. Yo tswa mo notice ya government ko kuranteng ko kae ko di newspapers ko kae ba invite the nominations. You have the right to nominate somebody that you know o bona gore fita criteria la re boletseng ka yona ne, qualifications, experience, knowledge, expertise in various fields. Then he's a South African citizen, o ka mo nominate, and then that's it. And then how mo nominate it? Let's see how the process is going. The selection panel must, it's not may, must compile a list of nominations, Patoba nominated, and applications received. Whatever they receive, nominations, applications, they must compile that list. And must from this list, they were compiling about 100, 220, 30. From that compiled list, they must recommend, but suggest, they were proposed, qualified persons to be appointed as members of the board. The selection panel recommends appointments to the minister responsible, in this instance, COCTA, and then who in turn, as no graduates panel recommend about 7 or 8, 9, or 10. Yeah, now have it recommend to the president, who must then have a final say in that regard. Term of office and resignation of board members, clause 11. A member of the board is appointed for a term not exceeding 5 years. Only member of board is just for 5 years. But however, only okay, only good, we can serve the second term in 5 years. But we can serve for more than 2 terms. That is very important. A member of the board may not hold office, like I said, for 2 consecutive terms. The members of the board are appointed on a full-time basis, except for the chairperson, whose appointment is full-time, but it can also be part-time, depending on the circumstances. A decision to remove a board member Kamabaka on the grounds of misconduct or incompetence must be based on a finding. So, ana motho a tla no koba motho fela, because I'm right, you know. O tlo tshwantse ho be le a tribunal e appointang ke president to investigate. I'm sure we can use an example. Yeah, the former public protector, ne? Abara, because when something barzamai, there was set up a process to investigate. Just that it's a committee guy, more they will set up a tribunal to investigate misconduct or incompetence, and then here go president, and then president will make the final call. The next slide. The board, conditions of appointment, the minister with the concurrence. Minister wa COCTA, concurrence or tumellano, he gave ya in simple, so to score, translation as well, concurrence, katumellano, le minister wa finance. Tshwanetse ba determine the conditions of appointment of members of the board. Conditions of employment, these are just the conditions. So Minister wa Kokta o bereka le Minister of Finance because in the financial implications. There were your pension, it was jwang, term of office, etc. But those things will be done having taken into consideration the expertise, experience, role, duties, and responsibilities. Chairperson and deputy chairperson, the president appoints one member of those 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 people recommended, appoint one member as the board chairperson and appoint one as deputy chairperson. Ke mmereko wa president, o ka se re ke ministers, president. And then the chairperson is, for the purposes of public finance management, responsible, he is an executive authority of the board. So he bare hona le boto, hona le komankana, hona le motho e leng hore the buck stops le ena, le accountability. If something goes horribly wrong, then he ena tshwantseng a be accountable, ke executive authority. And hona le responsibility to hold others accountable. But yena o hold you accountable, ke chairperson, because that is according to the Public Finance Management Act. Meetings, chairperson only prerogative to decide where the meetings of the board will take place, when and where. For chairperson agar meeting utaya go Tshwane or go Sidibeng, utaya go Kai, and then uta Tshwariwane. The chairperson of the board, ki ana chairan the meeting, and then has it thing, absent the deputy chairperson will take over. Quorum to the majority of the board. If by 7, it means there must be 5. If 4, ne? It will be 4. If by 7. If by 10, it will be 6. A simple majority forms a quorum. We can go to the next slide. The rules and procedures, clause 15. The board, have I ketile board, it determine the rules, the procedures, for what time is around the meeting, maybe what I will allow for you, Bulela, you must raise your hand, then you must do this or do that. But we have the rules and procedures at the meetings, and then but keep the meetings, the records at the meetings, and then let's set up the committees. The board must, it's an obligation, must establish committees. Now, what name the committees? Who can the level of the committees? 3. It's about the name and come. It's one of the ensuring good corporate governance. Okay, audit and risk governance committee. Every organization has the risks. So there must be a risk register for manage the risk. Every organization conduct an audit. So audit your value for money very excited. Ya bobedi ke remunerations, gore staff se tlo remunerate wa bjang, there must be remunerations. Ya bo 3 ke performance committee. But it turns about performing the organization. There must be a performance committee. So these are the 3 committees to enhance good corporate governance. The board must determine the functions. The ba feditse di establisher, tshwantse ba bolele hore mmereko wa committee e nngwe le nngwe ke eng. What are the functions? The board must also appoint the chairpersons. If banally these 3 committees, they must have 3 chairpersons for these committees. Ke mmereko wa board. Delegation. Delegation ke he ore se matla a ke filweng ona ere le nna ko wa fe o mong wa mo delegate with the responsibility sometimes authority to perform a certain function. Now mo ba re botsa ba re delegate the board for proper exercise of its powers and functions, may delegate any of its powers and functions, excluding kantle le matla to make a final decision on demarcation. But I say that decision of final demarcation and give it to one individual, to a staff member or to one board member. That they are not allowed to delegate, because a decision that must be taken by the collective of the board. And the board may not instruct any member of the board or committee, say 3, or employee to exercise powers or perform any functions of the board. What is to be performed by the board will be performed by the board. Something like finish and clap. So that one is very clear. That delegate can go to the next slide. Right. So here the board, the conduct of the board members. Clause 18 must perform functions of the office in good faith. In good faith, ke ho ira dilo ho ya ka mandate le ka molao le ka di-powers le ka authority e o nang le yona. O sa ire dilo because o na le expectation to gain something that you're not supposed to gain. So good faith, people get trust. What underlines something done in good faith, get trust. So you shouldn't betray the trust that those that have given you the responsibility. Functions in good faith without fear, favor, or prejudice. It's not because Ketsuamutembisa and then hurry that demarcation. Because Ketsuamutembisa, I want my ward, kill board member, iwele kamuhuna ling ingi or something, or get to say kamuki seko jubek for my own personal. It must be based on facts and evidence. Must disclose any personal or private business interest. Once you do allocate to a board member, you must be open for scrutiny. Who declare or business who run a coca must disclose. May not use the position or privileges of his or her office for private gain. May not act in a way that compromises the credibility, impartiality, independence, and integrity. Let this an independent board in our objectivity, in our reputation, in our credibility. So you can't be a member and compromise these principles. This thing is not impartial. So that is very important. Then the next slide. Chief Executive Administration. Now, remember, really for you to see there's an authority created in terms of the Constitution as an institution, there must be a board, board. There must be an administration, and then there must be staff. So now I'm talking about the administration. Administration and staff. Chief Executive Officer, CEO. The board must appoint. It can't delegate. It must appoint a qualified and experienced person as CEO of the board for an agreed term not exceeding 5 years, which may be renewed only once for the same. Like when I turn a board okay 5 years, okay renew for second term, but not exceeding 2 consecutive terms. So the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer, get the head of the administration. Here in Mo province, Renali DG, while committing the entire province, Renali HOD, while committing the department. So CEO, he head of the administration at the authority. More one authority, which are like at this institution, a constitutional institution. And then he referred to appoint a CEO. CEO, Maraguayana, appoint a staff. So nobody can appoint staff. The board appoints the minister, the president, appointer, the board appoints the CEO appoints the staff. There's no hutsanala, who staff and appoint a board. It's wrong. That is very important. Conditions of employment of employees. An employee of the authority is employed according to the terms and conditions. So it can be determined like a board, because board is the policy. And then contracting. If the authority contracts for services of any person, I'm sure we'll let the guy on. The authority may so authority in Alemak. He contract about for the services studies. He sign into contract but they were appointed through supply chain management. policy. The finances, the authorities funded by appropriated annually. Ratsawar chelete appropriate you annually through the appropriations bill ke parliament. Or chelete allocate you to department, to the public entities, schedule month, by allocator. So the finances, it will be and then just so that they will the authority may receive money from any other source through the National Revenue Fund. Ukawali chelete lungore raise it state. And then the authority can get that money from there, outside of that appropriation bill. You may find or a state has recovered money from the proceeds of crime, but confiscated through SIU, through asset forfeiture unit, etc. And then money gets into the National Revenue Fund, so it can get money also from those sources. Right? Then we can go to the next slide. Municipal demarcation boundary. That is the criteria I wanna for the determination, redetermination. The determination or redetermination of the boundaries, clause 23, and enables effective local governance. Are you imagining the ward council? It was going to be chaotic, ne? Go maspa. Now at least tunali ward it over local ward councillor, we can go to that. Ward-based budgeting is possible. Only the project is run per ward. So you are in a ward, you can identify. And a number of wards, they form a region in that ward, and then it forms the entire municipal council. So it's a structure. This determination and redetermination. And then enables integrated development. IGPs, or they start cohorting a consultation, ward-based planning, ward-based budgeting, ensure that the tax base is as inclusive as possible of users of municipal services in the municipality. So, clear, online the city of Joburg, you know, ukas chachike maspala ko ikurule, baronna ko ikurule, you pay your taxes, your municipal services somewhere. You clear, or the Institute of Joburg, there's some offices where I pay, I go to do. So it enhances and it promotes local democracy and local governance. Factors to be taken into account, giving it a chance and level for a determination, the interdependence of people, communities, and economics. Ukas nuira water failance. Right, this time we're like a maspala. Ukas nuira fela maspala, usnang bom mall, usna the petrol station, usna police station, usna skolo, usna the social services offices, usna all of these things. There must be places where people can work. There must be places for churches, for religious purposes and mosques. All these things are very important so that there are, we are social beings. The socio-economic integration and interdependence of communities. That's very important. The need for cohesive, integrated, and unfragmented areas, including metropolitan areas. I'm sure it will more or less on the same point. Rekasibility, kilo wana strata sisi, sino kawa mohare sinalidin. All of a sudden, sitana ko maspale ngomung. That all of these things. So there has to be that proper demarcation to ensure integration and integrated planning. So that's very important. The financial viability, I think it's something that we are looking at, area capacity assessments. The financial viability. Ukasar plug again Maspala, it can raise its own revenue because municipalities, by their nature, they find 95% of their recurrent expenditure from their own revenues. That is what the white paper on local government says. For 95% of recurrent expenditure of a municipality is funded from own revenues. It means har patela rent re etsa eng re funda tse ding. Are depended largely. It's only about a very small percentage, around 5 or so, which is funded through other means. Grants, but generally we raise money from our own sources. So it's a tax base, right? That is why one municipality, one tax base. I think this is what was said in the 1980s through civic movements. One municipality, one tax base. That was very important. Or really the Municipal, they can raise revenue from companies, from individuals, etc. The need to share and reach this financial, yes. So, in that municipality, there are areas that are underperforming, there are areas that are overperforming, and then there's cross-subsidization in that municipality. So that when you do that municipality, you can have everything is poor, and then affluent are low. You must then do that demarcation to balance really proper economies of scale so that we will a proper balance for people to survive. Provincial and municipal boundaries, that's very important. You can't just remember this independent municipal demarcation board is not responsible for provincial boundaries. It is not its competence. There's competence at national government. So when you can't just do boundaries and then study Municipal, how Ferisodira, you have actually changed the boundaries of provinces. That is not how it's supposed to be. That's very critical to do that. Just got to go through the proper parliamentary process. Determination of a category of municipality, Ratseva Renali Metropolitan, A, B, and C categories as we speak. Metropolitan, district, and locals, ABC. So that categorization, the board must apply the set out criteria, subsection 3, to determine whether area in terms of a criteria must have a single category A. Mo Gauteng, remember Mo Gauteng renale the category 883, ne? Tshwane, Joburg, le Kurule. In the whole country, we are the only province with 3 metropolitan municipalities. So those are categories. Or whether it must have municipalities of both categories C and B. More Gauteng renale category A, B, and C. Renale 6. The locals, renale 2. The district, so B and C. A, renale 3. So the board must determine that. Or how many categories, something to that. The board may determine or redetermine the boundaries. We have spoken about that. And then a municipality, only after consultation with the minister, the MEC for local government in a province concerned, the organized local government, came over determining the categories. SALGA is very important. It represents the municipal. So the consultation that we're talking about, we can go to the next. And then determination at the municipal boundaries, initiation, determination, clause 26. The board may, it's not a must, only determine a municipal boundary regarding categorization. Amalgamation, boundary change. So here the most important thing, Korhonale fixed term. Ntau change Municipal in terms of Tshwane wa mo kae, Ekurhuleni ko kae. O ka se ire anytime, it's fixed. You can only do it every 10 years. I don't know every 2 years to change a Municipal or no, it's fixed for 10 years. Cannot be done within that period of 10 years. This is to ensure stability of governance, because there unnecessary disruption. Because so change a Municipal or Tshwane, it's enter the other areas of Ekurhuleni, it's enter the areas of Joburg, it's Western. Already change administration, but very challenge. So it can only be done every 10 years. And ke mandate wa board, wa the authority. So the minister, after consultation, let me see, determine priorities. Yeah, so we have already spoken about that. Notification of intention to consider so before the authority considers, any proposed determination or redetermination, it must publish a notice. If Hunali request, you change the boundaries, that municipal, it must be published in the notice. And the notice must also be sent to the minister, the MEC for local government, each municipality that will be affected, organized local government, in this instance, Renale Salga, the local houses, which is very critical, of houses in terms of the Traditional and Koi Leadership Act. So you consult all these houses, you consult all these bodies, because banally interest. You can't just do it willy-nilly. There must be proper consultations. Can move to the next one. I'm sure when there is Zita Makosi, I'm sure they are noting, or they will be consulted through the local, if there's a local house, and those houses that exist in terms of the TKLA. Can go to the next slide. Determination. After receiving the representations of views contemplated with that section in terms of your change, the board must institute investigation. Once you grant this request, your determination, they must themselves investigate. Baskadumela, anything that comes as a fact, they must investigate any proposal for that determination, redetermination. The board may, one, conduct the investigation itself, or by designating one or more members of the board, by the expert in that regard. So the critical thing is investigation that is done by the board. For the purpose of the board will, or it can establish an investigation committee, and then in Alemata, or with any other person, for information. They can summon any individual or groups to come and present themselves before the board. And then public participation, which is important. We know what happened in other areas. For example, when Kusong was redetermined, boundaries were redetermined, Yaba Patia Gauteng from Northwest. Many years ago, but the challenges there, the community unrest protests, are still with us, some of those challenges. Metsweding into Tuane, we know. So all of these key experiences. So that is why this bill is trying to improve on those experiences. Where don't conclude the demarcation process without a proper public participation. Let's spend time doing public participation. And if communities are not satisfied with the decision of the board, of the authority, then they can go to an independent municipal appeals board. So that is very important. And then in that consultation, consult each and every stakeholder interest group in that municipality. So they will have all the time to consult any grouping, any stakeholder in that. So basically this is it's very important. So they will determine the procedures, the systems of consultation, lady members, and they will also, part of it, they will invite the members to engage with them. What did they have received as proposal? So, and it was very clear. It's not going to be hidden somewhere in a corner, somewhere in a newspaper, in a community that predominantly speaks Zulu, and then we are in a newspaper Afrikaans somewhere in a corner, or in a community Afrikaans we are Zulu in a Zulu newspaper. It must be there. You must get to the people where they are. I think this is the emphasis. So determining those mechanisms, processes, and procedures for public participation is very important. Get lost state. So, more you can see the bottom line: consult, engage with organizations, structures that represent communities who may be affected by the demarcation process. We underline that part. Structures community-based structures that are representing the interests of what are affected. Then we can go to the next slide. And then public participation, publication of an objection to determination or redetermination. Any person who has a kgotsofalang, while aggrieved by the decision may, which I'm aware, within 30 days of publication. There was no published, it was no publication or a period of objections. Within that 30 days, you can submit your objections in writing to the authority. You romela go authority, and then the board that is running the affairs of the authority, but must consider the objection delivered, must confirm, vary, or withdraw its decisions. Based on the objections, it can change mola le mola, kam kolena le nyaka, or ya withdraw decision na matomo, and it will publish its decisions in terms of paragraph B in the government newspaper Guranta Gazette. So, like one again, first space, so we can object. There is a court of file. So we must use that platform. The next slide, delimitation of words. I'll move very fast. After minister has published the formula of councillors, we know where the elections, it's a local government. The minister who published a formula of the councillors in terms of Section 20 of Municipal Structures Act, and then the councillor in that municipality. So the board, the authority, the independent authority must, for the purpose of an election, after consultation with IEC, because when there are elections, there's consultation with IEC as a Chapter 9 institution responsible for election, Banalo Authority elections. Delimit metropolitan municipalities and local municipalities into wards. So prior to an election, you are in a local government, number of councillors, and then consultation with IEC, then body, it consult it will consult the IEC, and then for the delimitation, that wards. I think it's a process that we know it happens every 5 years when elections are local government. Number of wards, the number of wards in a metro or local municipality must be equal to the number of the wards. So Ekurhuleni has got about 112 wards, so that means there must be 112, must be equal to the number of councillors, as it says. It says the number of wards must be equal to the number of ward councillors. If you've got 112 wards, you must have 112 ward councillors, just like that. And then criteria for delimitation, Rewoni criteria ya municipal boundaries, wards. What is the criteria? The number of registered voters in each ward may not vary by more than 15% from the norm, where the norm is determined by dividing the total. So this is the formula that is used basically to determine the number of people in the wards. So the number of registered voters plays an important part in the delimitation of the wards. So there's a formula that is used, and then the need to take into consideration communication in that accessibility, density of population. You can't find one ward having 200,000 people when it's supposed to be having between 12,000 and 20,000 people, because that is going to be difficult for any ward councillor to manage that kind of a number. Topography, the physical characteristics, and then the ward boundaries. So there are a number of things that are taken into account. That is why when you see the criteria, the board members, you can't just take anybody who does not understand topography, and then as understanding issues around planning, as understanding the issues of information, communication, and technology. Because these variables are taken into account. You don't just determine a ward. Then 10 steps. I count 10 steps to what? 10 steps. No, there's a criteria. So we can move to the next slide. We left with about 4 slides after this one. As much as when you do the boundaries of a municipality, regulates public participation. So when we do delimitation at wards, you conduct the authority, there's a notice published in the newspaper. So it's again more or less the same procedure. You have to, but whoever to affect you in that ward, they must be informed so that they can also come and participate as members of the public. So about all the information, what is this meeting all about? Where is going to take place? At what time? The agenda also. And then publication, the objection. Remember, we raised it at the municipal boundaries. So the same procedure will be followed. When you receive these objections, after the publications, you must consider them. You can vary or withdraw, publish the final delimitation of the wards in the Gazette, just like you publish the final redemarcated or redetermined municipal boundaries. Let's go to the next slide. Demarcations Appeals Authority. I spent time at the beginning, Chairperson and members, I spent time at the beginning to emphasize this point. To demonstrate impartiality, independence of the authority, you need to have this independent appeals board. So this section speaks about that board. If you're not happy that the decisions that were made by the authority, you can go to an independent municipal demarcation appeals authority. You can go to that appeals authority. So this is what it's done in terms of the act, and then Salim Merakowa, the appeals, is to consider all appeals that are presented before them, and then apply their minds independently from the authority itself. They can either agree or disagree, confirm or not confirm what the board said, or agree with what the appellants are saying. So qualification, I just want to get to the qualification of members of the appeals authority. The chairperson and other members of the appeals authority collectively, our appeals board, they must represent the broad cross section of the population. The same issue as South African society. They must reflect the broad South African society character. They must have proven experience in demarcation issues. You can't put Mutwasnang experience at demarcation issue or at level the appeal. You must bring somebody who's experienced in matters of appeal so that akabona the mistakes at the board. And then there must be people who have legal training. You can't really appeal because it's a legal process. But the lawyer who can look at these matters. And then we must also be a South African citizen. It doesn't end there. South African citizen, one Nankamo South Africa. We've got South African citizens who are staying abroad. You must be a South African citizen staying in South Africa. Have a suitable qualification and experience. Then let's go to the next slide. Right? Demarcation Appeals Authority. We're still on that aspect. So it halosa dilo tse ne re di bolela in the previous slide. Ya di bolela tso tsotlhe, the chairperson and it starts at the term of office at the board. Must serve a term, it's only a board, 5 years. And then the same thing, the chairperson is the convener at the appeals. And then the appeals authority proceedings, the authority must assign each matter referred to the appeals authority to a panel comprised of members of the appeals authority. So, they consider the matters. When they're looking at this matter as a board, the chair must ensure that there's one person in these 3-member committees that they establish, the panels that are looking at the matters who's got a legal training. I think that's very important. And then the one that will be the convener who will preside over that small committee. Conflict and disclosure, we are doing things in good faith. During the hearing, it appears to a member of the appeal so that a matter of concern, da 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 da. So once who suspect or is perceived there's a conflict of interest, we know you must do a full disclosure or you must recuse yourself from the proceedings of the appeal, because the appeal is the last authority on these matters. The next slide. This is just the last slide, chapter 4, the municipal capacity assessment. I also took time at the beginning for the municipal capacity assessment. The authority must conduct municipal capacity assessment. They are conducted because they must support all the decisions that are made by the board, because all decisions must be fact-based, evidence-based. So you can only do so, or we are doing this, the order the change, the boundaries the municipal change this, because the capacity assessment indicates, or a municipality as demarcated or determined in this fashion cannot perform its functions in terms of section 154 of the Constitution. So something to that effect. And then the authority must conduct at least one municipal capacity assessment in respect of each municipality during the term of the municipal council for a respective municipality. So term of councillor must be like 5 years. So at least in that 5 years, at least you can conduct a capacity assessment. But if the need arises, you may conduct 2 even in that 5 years. But at least in a 5 year, if need be, conduct a municipal capacity assessment. So municipal capacity assessments are important to determine the capacity. So when authority conducts a capacity assessment, it must take into account the following factors. Operational, administrative, and financial management capacity, infrastructure that enables municipality to collect revenue, natural resources, and other. We cannot create municipalities where there is no economy, where there is no potential for revenue raising mechanism. We cannot create municipalities where you do not have infrastructure to enable goods and services to move around, which is economics. So roads and everything in that. So this was my last slide. The last one I think is just for the portfolio committee to note. Thank you very much, Chairperson, for the opportunity on behalf of the department. I thought I should just do a blow by blow and take all the time so that we can explain it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kekana. I know if we are hot, you are also very hot, but we appreciate going into the level of detail and also explaining to our community members. Can I check from National COGTA? I'm told they are here now. Can I check, is there anything from the National Department that you guys may want to add, or perhaps even just introduce yourself to the community? I don't know. Okay, we're just getting the mic as well. Okay, while we're waiting for that, members, I'm sure you will be happy with this. I'd rather hear from our community members. Remember, as honorable members, we've interacted with the bill a number of times and we will still interact a number of times. So I'm going to suppress your views today, which I know you'll agree with. And today is really about hearing from our community members and our stakeholders. I'm going to open up around in just a moment. I just want to see if National COGTA, the National Department, if there's anything from them. Yeah, I think if you can just introduce yourself and if there's anything on the bill you might want to add to our community members. We have quite a wide variety of stakeholders today from a combination of COJ, Kuruleni and Tswane. But let me hand over to you from the National Department. Thank you.
Okay, no, thanks, Chairperson. Good afternoon to the chairperson and the members of the committee, as well as the delegate from NCOP and the members of the public. What I will basically say is that I think my colleague has said a mouthful in terms of the issues that resides in the bill itself. But maybe as a summary, I can just indicate that
Bring the mic a little closer to your mouth. We're
Okay.
struggling, well, I'm struggling to hear you. It could be the acoustics here.
Okay, you can hear me now. No, thanks, Chairperson. Yeah, I think my colleague has said a mouthful in terms of the various provisions and interventions that are brought inside the bill. But in essence, what we needed to fix there, which was much more critical, was to maximize public participation within the municipal demarcation and ward delimitation processes. So that was the main thing, because you would have seen there was a lot of demarcation impasse happening all over the country where the board was determining municipal boundaries. So it was felt necessary that maybe the bill itself need to be revised so that communities and community organization, including the areas of traditional councils, need to participate effectively in the process, which has been dealt with thoroughly in the bill. It provides for much more avenues for the board to consult communities in the process. One other issue that was brought in the bill is the introduction of the Municipal Demarcation Authority. This is a structure that is now being brought in to be established to deal with any disputes that arise from a community desertification if they are not satisfied with the boundary changes that has been made by the MDB. So the community now have a leeway to engage that structure and record their dissatisfaction, and that is taken into consideration. And if that committee sees it necessary, fit that the decision of the board can be overturned, it can recommend same, then that decision being overturned in any instances where it is deemed necessary. Another issue was to also ensure that there's a transparent process in terms of ensuring that the board itself becomes accountable for the decisions that it makes in terms of demarcating municipal boundary. It provides for a provision that also requires the board to publish the reasons thereof of why they've redetermined certain municipal boundary. That was to ensure that there's a transparent process and the justification in terms of why that boundary has been determined. So there's also an issue of capacity assessment. Capacity assessment was to basically to deal with some of the issues that for the board to do that every term of municipal government, at least once, and that was to ensure that is the municipality able to deliver according to those responsibilities assigned to it in terms of the constitution. So that has also been part of the requirement that the board must conduct capacity assessment to ascertain whether the municipality is delivering up to the community's expectation and within the legal framework that it has been provided for. So before demarcating a municipal boundary, the board also need to take that into consideration. That information will also assist the national department together with the provincial department responsible for local government to identify areas where there's a need for a municipality to be supported, so that a demarcation is not a last resort, but it should be something that is considered after one would have determined that this municipality cannot be able to performed certain functions such as water, a provision of potable water and other virus service delivery priorities. So in essence, those are the critical elements that have been brought in the bill. I think my colleague would have said, had said a mouthful in terms of what the bill entails. So if there's any other question, we are here to assist as well in terms of the responding to virus issues that are being raised. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That was just a high-level pick out of a few points that the national department wants us to know. Right, to our community members, thank you for being so patient with us. We appreciate that. We are here to serve you, and that's why I've suppressed members here. We want to hear your thoughts. You can ask questions, you can give us your ideas, or even just a comment. Like I said, it can be in any language. Remember, we've got translation services. So if you are not so comfortable in speaking in one or other language, it's not a problem. Just a reminder, channel 1 is English, channel 2 is Afrikaans, channel 3 is Venda and Tsonga, channel 4 is Setswana and Sepedi, and channel 5 is Zulu and Xhosa. Also, to those who are watching on YouTube, our team will now be looking at the comments. If you have anything you might want to say or add, or even clarity questions, all of that, we'll entertain that as well. Let me start on this side of the room, my left, your right. I'll start by noting hands. Also, if you're a bit shy to talk in public, that's also okay. You can send us a written submission. It doesn't have to be a formal email. You can write it on a piece of paper. You can send us even on a WhatsApp. You know, we really want to open up the process of public participation. But let me see if there are any hands on this side of the room. Any comments? I'm noting Gogo number 1. Number 2, the gentleman in the yellow. Number 3, that there. Anyone else on this side? Okay, I've noted your 3, right? Anyone there at the back? Okay. Now on this side, I'm going to note. Let me start at the back. Number 4, the gentleman in the blue shirt. Number 5 in the red shirt. Next to him, number 6. Number 7 in the green shirt. Number 8. I've noted you, sir. Right. Okay, so I'm going to change your number, sir. You're going to become 9. You're going to become 8. Right. So I've got 8 speakers. Let's start on this side of the room and we'll move around. And then please, when you are speaking, ma'am, and to anyone, please introduce yourself. Tell us your name and where you are from. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Alina, commonly known as Mentswaki. I'm from Ward 22, Kliptown, Pimville, in Soweto. I'm really, really concerned with the public participation. I'm not happy with the interaction of the hierarchy. One, on the grassroots, we are facing the ward committee. And if the ward committee doesn't certify us, we know we have to go to Metro Center and complain there. Now, as the lawmakers, my worry is that in my own understanding, it starts from me as a citizen. Then it goes to ward committee with all the sectors. Then ward committee is the one that sits with the council. My question is, on your side of the legal, we've got a standing committee and a portfolio committee. The question is, when do you meet with the MMC, the councillor, the ward committee? Because those are the ones who take queries and complaints from us. And how do we then get response as per your oversight to those we are working with? Why I'm saying this, I want to thank Papa there. I'm sorry, Papa, I didn't take your surname. the way you have facilitated, I so wish that that strategy could begin to be used in the public participation. Because I can tell you, as I've indicated, these structures, when you want the law to be implemented, you tell us of the bylaws, you tell us of the policies and the regulations, which we know nothing about because you never brought workshop to the public to know and understand. As you're speaking of experience, experience is something that you have done. But I can tell you in this house, most of these youth, they don't have practicals in what courses and studies they've done. They don't have practicals. They only have, do you understand? Now, how do you measure their experience? They've just graduated in the colleges, university, and whatever. Where have they done practicality of what they've learned? And when will they begin to have experience? Because you number your experience, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years experience, but she's new from the college. My honorables, when it comes to public participation, can we please do justice? Let it start from the ground and go up. It shouldn't fall from the sky to the ground. We plead with you, Rialokopa, siyancenga. Ake kusukela kithi kuze kini. Kungasuki kini kuze kithi. Typical example, Kliptown is historical, but I can tell you up to this moment it's underdeveloped. When you look at disaster, it starts there. Because we are still living in the shacks. Do you know how hot it is in the evening? Do you know how hot it is during the day? And for your information, because of the demarcation board, the site there, we call it Baghdad. They're selling whatever, from hardware to electricity. That site, it's earmarked for the clinic, ya Kliptown. Kodwa kuze kube namhlanje ayikho. Sikijima the whole of Soweto. 2, Charter Square is the first informal settlement derived from the old houses of Kliptown. And it's next to the precinct, which as the community, we pleaded that before the precinct is built, let the construction start within Kliptown old houses. We requested for RDPs there, but to date they are not there. And if you can go to Kliptown now and look at the status of the precinct of Parliament, it's disgracing. Lastly, I must say this. In your agreements where you sit, you are pampering us with malls in the locations. We no more have shops like before. In the location, there used to be a stream of shops. You know, Kusema Virgin, a Butcher, a Dairy, and Tonton. But today we don't have. Hence, it has become so easy for the foreigners to come and mingle with us. And as much as we saw that as an easy making money, but the after effects of that, it's hectic. Last but not least, I'm trying to control my temper. Last but not least, I'm thankful to myself at my age. I've already submitted my dissatisfactions in this bill. I don't know about the 2000. Angazi ukuthi nina nienzeni, nibhaleni. Futhi nimnandi niyagugula, you don't have to struggle. But I hope today nizosubmita ikhalazo zenu. When it comes to demarcation, the reason why informal settlement won't be done with angeke amatyotyomba aphele ngoku. Why? Because kusetshenziswa wona as areas of development. Do you understand? And because of the demarcation, ithathiwe iCliptown yafakwa eEldos. Project eEldos doesn't serve that small piece of Cliptown informal settlement. The large number is within the well-developed houses. There comes the RDP in zone 9. We are almost 15 or 16 years in that area. Up to this moment, when it rains, sigibela phezu kwamatafula amanzi angena endlini agqithele emva. Up to this moment, people have suffered, people have passed on. I don't know what to say. Why? Because of the demarcation. The decision you took on the demarcation board doesn't serve us. We don't have stormwater drains. We don't have tie roads. And the infrastructure from Pimville to us, it makes a lot of damage. It is not maintained. And unfortunately, because we are moved up and down, side by side, there's no way in which we can complain. Although I did write 3 times to the demarcation board. I even explained to JAR the reason why these floods in our RDPs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We're noting all of those things. Don't forget to introduce yourself and where you are from. Thank you.
Sanbona. Kamala Mulera Tosetwaba from Katlehong, Ward 63. I believe that all of us, we are led by the Constitution, which is the Constitution of the country, and all of us, we should benefit and get all the fruitness. But the demarcation, another side, I think it's a tool to divide us, and it's a tool that is used by government to determine which areas must benefit, which areas must not benefit. That is my first point. If possible, maybe demarcation must be withdrawn. Secondly, I heard the guy from National talking about that we need to involve more parties so that the information can be spread around. I don't know, maybe if you can collaborate with the States SA department, they will do that for you so that you reach many people in terms of spreading the information regarding the bill. Obvious. Yeah, I think I will end here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's get our third speaker. Please tell us your name and where you are from.
Sanbonan, my name is Denton Tembu from Ward 63. Chair, my question is this. I want to know about this, the decentralization of power concerning the issue of energy. Is the bill going to allow the community to maybe privatize or be responsible for their own source of energy? Whereby maybe like I heard the president and the premier recently announced about the installation of solar energy. So those operations, are they going to be managed or are they going to be implemented by the government only in a sense of excluding the people, or are people going to be introduced as contract workers or whatever? I don't know on that. Secondly, I'm interested on this. Does this bill going to allow the community to be part of the discussion and the formulation of the natural capital of this province? So the centralization again of the natural capital of Gauteng, is it going to be the fundamental issues that the bill is going to concentrate on it? Because of, since we see there's a lack of employment, lack of opportunities, lack of business funding. My concern is this bill going to advance these issues of job creation, privatization, and all those things? The importance of it to us to benefit as communities. I would like to thank it from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Some excellent contributions thus far. We're moving now to this side of the hall. The gentleman in the blue shirt, we're going to basically move our way back to the front again. Remember, you don't have to speak in English. You are welcome to speak in any of those languages. That's why we've got the translation services. Again, if you're a little bit shy, you can write something on WhatsApp, you can write something on a piece of paper, you can give it to us. That counts as public participation. We want to make it as open and as easy for you to do as possible. Okay, I noted the gentleman at the back in the blue shirt first. Yes. Then remember to introduce
Afternoon,
yourself.
leaders.
Thank you.
My name is Mlungisi from Ward 41, under the supervision of Councillor Hlongwani Sanele. Basically, I'll be focusing on demarcation board bill. As the people,
So sorry,
I feel
Ward
like
41 in which region or which area?
area, it's Ward 41, roundabout,
Ikuruleni.
Egoroleni, yes.
Perfect, thank you.
municipality. Okay, people, I just want to add a few concern about demarcation. I think it's rolling and divide us, but it appears to our eyes as if like it's a combination, like it's a unity. Reason being, in Shoganjalo, siya apply this term, it's under us. Maybe next term it will be on Bushle Park or Leondale for a multi-purpose center. Like it's just a practical example. Okay, sifune a multi-purpose center to practice our skills and so forth. Basaplana kuyenza. Next time say Leondale or Bushle Park. Yes, move to. Ama request wethu, ma proposal wethu aphela kanjani. Bazobuza ukuthi who was in charge, which ward was proposing multi-purpose center kulesikhathi esidlulile. Now say kwabanye abantu they won't do the same thing. Lethina besesiyenzile. Because of demarcation, we need to, but siyasihlanganisa according them, but thina feeling ngathi iya separator and it delay a process from ama proposal wethu. Okay, ngidlule lapho. There's any point is two. There's a mall, okay, it's private, but now the land. Now sell demarcator, we shoot it this time, liba this side, the next time, liba kulenye side. Kuhayarwa abantu this mall, makhayarwa abantu. I prioritize abantu abakuleyo area, right? Like enough imall yenzwa area yethu. So we are first priority because we are the one, not to say with demand, which is endaweni yethu, but because of his safety and to get damage your infrastructure. That's another point. It's okay, fine. Please prioritize the residents, laba bahlala khona, before you put others. Okay, here comes the next term. Abantu base Bushle Park or Leondale or something, njengoba roundabout. They have to be prioritized nabo. And I think lapho laba bebakhona bangenile, maybe bathole imisebenzi, they were hired before. Some of them they have to leave the space and open for others. That's why ngithi ibuya isihlukanise. Because now bane right, power igubo for this time. So mina, according mina, bengicabanga ukuthi there are some things, okay, khona la isebenza khona. For unity, a bit of unity. Ukuthi sikhona ku-networker sisonke on that sector. But now, igama lokugcina ukuthi cela bazame bangakhiphi konke, only these things engizipointile ezingabuya zisi-affect and ngiyazibona seziqalile zayenzeka e-areani yami. So all in all ngithi please chair, cela nisihambise isikhalo sethu, dala silindile up until today. Sesikhonjwa ngabantu bebakhona before. We can't receive izinto besizicelile because of basitshela ngokuthi no, you don't no longer belong kuleya ndawo. Only the people who are in charge now abangakhona ukuqhubekisa your proposals. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you very much. Let me get number 5.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I go by the name of Temba. I'm from Orange Farm, Station 6A. I represent Ward 1. I just wanted to add, to emphasize more especially on the issue of energy. Because in Orange Farm, currently we have a huge problem when it comes to energy, electricity, so to say. I think it would be reasonable if, my suggestion is in terms of energy, since we have a huge problem in terms of unemployment within the black society, I think it will be very reasonable if you guys come with a fixed amount when it comes to energy, because it's totally impossible for an individual to buy electricity each and every time you run out of power. So I think it's reasonable if you come with a monthly payment in terms of electricity, taking into consideration where I'm from specifically, because I know the suffering and the daily issues of the community. We have a huge problem of unemployment. A lot of youths are unemployed, especially I would like to go specifically for black youth, because that's where I'm from. I'm from the black community, so I cannot speak on behalf of other communities. So in terms of energy, to make things simple, I think we gotta have a fixed monthly payment. That's how the community can be able to afford electricity, energy, so to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me get number 6 or 7. I've lost my own count. Yeah, I think we were here at the front, gentleman in the red shirt. Then we're going to go to your left after that.
Thank you very much, Portfolio Committee Chairperson and Mr. Kekana. My name is Zakele Iga from Ward 13, Egurileni, Tembisa. Chairperson, in page 6 here, it says,
Page 6 of the bill.
page 6 of the bill, yes, it says, part 2, the board.
Yes.
Composition of board. The board consists of no fewer than the 7, no more than 10 members appointed by the president in terms of section 10. Mina ngicela ukuthi silungise lapho Chairperson. Each and every portfolio must have the subcommittees. Why I'm saying this, Chairperson, is that in page number 11, part 4, finances, the authority is funded by money appropriated annually by the Parliament and the National Revenue Fund. So I'm trying to say to you, Chairperson, the more the committee iba inkulu, the more young people are getting employed. So I think the money there, it might be enough for the committee and the subcommittees. Chairperson, I am a ward committee in my area, ward. Chairperson, we getting a stipend of 1,000 rand. And I'm pleading to you, the portfolio committee and the COPTA, to say maybe if we can get the stipend of 15,000, because now the challenges that we are facing in the ground, we are the people that are working hand in hand with the with the community, because we are the communication line. You know how painful it is to go to one of Izindlu in the township where I stay. You will find the granny there and the abazukulu there. The granny will tell you that we do not have a bread. And you are what committee? The community believes that we are getting paid. They don't know that we are getting 1,000 rand. Then you will leave the money for the bread. You leave the money for the bread out of that 1,000 rand. And if the 1,000 rand comes to our account, the bank are charging us. Definitely the money it's not there. So I'm pleading to you, Chairperson. Stelani sizamele ukuthi at least kube 15,000. Thank you very much. One last more thing. This is the submission. I have a submission.
Sanibonani. Usipho More, ngihlala eWard 13 ekuruleni la eThembisa. Is we've got a serious problem about this demarcation board. Because in the enzakala lana, like now sila, I heard you speakers lapho phambili, you are talking about Tshwane, Joburg and ekuruleni. And thina la sihlala khona in our ward, we are affected by that exactly. Because now we find out ukuthi a smaller nyana portion in our ward, it is serviced by Itembisa. The bigger part of our ward, it is serviced by Eden Vale. And the other plus minus 1.5 portion of our ward is serviced by Captain Park. Being a poor ward community who's earning 1,000 rand, somebody from this other part of Ikasi, whereby I have to report in Captain Park, ufuna ukuthi ngize laphana ngizomenzela services. Because now, people on the ground are aware what is our functions as ward committees. We even called as much as I'm a social worker, uthengisa into kanje lo bhutlo ukhuluma iqiniso. Nama electrics siyawathenga. Ngayo le 1,000 rand leyo. Siyawabhadala nama transport azohamba uyofuna abantwana abalahlekile since baye groundini akwaziwa ukuthi ukuphi. Because where we stay, there are no facilities. Abantwana, they have got no place to play soccer, tennis or what have you or what have you or what have you. Khona manje into punchline kokugcina is our people are paying for our street lights, which are not functioning for the past 3 years. But whenever you buy electricity, buy it on the street lights, it's not sebenzi. You see? So the other thing about the demarcation is because you guys are here. Nikhuluma ngale mali le service delivery epatala yiyo lo mphakathi lo. But anithashi indaba service delivery. Which is something else engimangazayo mina ukuthi sila because sizowathetha indaba ze-service delivery. But akekho no-one mention indaba ye-service delivery lapho. Which is something engukuthi sila ngayo. La eThembisa, Ivory, le ndawo lezi sikuzo lezi ekuruleni. Siyahlala for a period of a month to 2 months. I-wasting athathwa yi. But our people are paying. Siyahlala like now. Since the I think we are running to our 3rd year now. I'm a street committee, I'm a street lights, as well reported 3 years back. We were promised last year in January, no, sizofaka ama-HEMAS lights. Tina sayenzi homework yethu. Sabuyela futhi ngoJanuary, which is last month. We were told, no, I'm Apollo light, they are on the line, kanina yini problem yini. So now the problem yethu yiyo ke leyo mphakathi. We report to these authorities. Bese nina mphakathi nibona ngathi asenzi next. Naba ke labantu abanichazele ukuthi le mali esibhadalayo ezinjanjani zishona kuphi. And today, kumnandi ngoba we declare ukuthi as what committees, we only getting a stipend 1,000 rand. And that's all. And a 1,000 rand, abantu abanjengathi, siyayithole naleyo 200 kuleyo mali leyo. Ngoba ingene sibabe emabhenki. Ingena nje uthola sekunuka enye into laphana. Kuba minus. So now, we would like to be recognize ngoba namanje into engimamele uma uchairperson akhuluma ngama structures wakhe ukhuluma ngayo yonke lento lenkulu umama ushilo laphana ihierarchy which is something like asenguthi asisebenzi ngayo manibala nibala premier mayor councillor so Tina, because we were elected by a community, no, we are not good. And we are not to be counted. As much as namanje. Akekho umuntu engimzwayo lapho considering indaba ye-old committee. So Tina sama old committee, we are on our own. Because into esisireportayo azenzeki. Izinto ezenziwa amakhansela ezinye engeke sisikhulume la ngoba niyazazi abobrabeni. Namanje sinabantu engukuthi ba qualified bahleli la abayi youth abawuthola umsebenzi ngoba umsebenzi kuzoza umshana wakho obuya lephongola azothola umsebenzi kule expense yalo mntana lo la so ngicela ukuthi whatever niyenzayo ake nibe neqiniso khona manje nigijimela ukuza la sizokhuluma ngedemarcation this is something else bemele sikhulume ngayo after mhlambe 2 or 3 months sesilungise ezinye izinto esikhala ngazo la on the ground kumanje nibonile istate salendawo leni kuyo kuseholweni la cleaniwe namhlanje ngoba you are here so imaginani ke ukuthi mangabe nizobuya after 3 years kuzobe kunjani for the 3 years la so anthatheni umphakathi serious because njoba nilapho nikhuluma kanje imali ebhadala lo mphakathi lona so umphakathi wethu I don't think uzolubela uqhubeka ubhadala imali engukuthi abasebenzeli sibhadalela for the service delivery we don't care and give a damn about ama demarcations asiqaleni nge-service delivery and then we come to the demarcations as a belief I've got my submissions la engizenzile ngoba eyokuqala engifuna ukuyibeka ukuthi I don't think uma nenza ama demarcations wenu do you consider indaba ze health issues ukuthi la abantu bakhona icapacity yale ndawo lena ikliniki izoba kuphi or ikliniki kuphi kanjani ikolo ezikhona la endaweni zingakhi kwenzakala ini ama library into egcwele la lokushini ama mall kuphela and we are very much aware ukuthi abantu abasebenzi so iyamangaza lento leyo abazali bethu bazamile ukuthi bathumele abantwana ezikolweni nathi sazama ukubhadala bagcwele manje lapha still sisathengisa inko inceda ngani ndaba esikolo as much as uchairperson akhuluma lapho ukuthi we need to consider indaba mhlambe but I can tell ukuthi is educational level of some kind ukuthi okay uzofaka umuntu one degree uzombhadala 1000 rand umuntu one degree come on again start serious masithi government by the people for the people ake icale laphansi kube yithi esinikeza umhlahlandlela ukuthi sifuna kanjani this thing yeni yokuthi nizofika la as government seniphethe ama position asinazi nokuthi nafunda kuphi kwayenzakalani abanye bathenge namaphepha bese kuba yini enthola umsebenzi ake nisithathe serious abantu bayabhadala la please yabonga
Sanbona, standing here, Ukauhelo Piri from Ward 105 in the city of Tshwane, from the Bronkhorstspruit area. I'm the ward councillor from that ward. It's one of the biggest ward in Gauteng. In fact, it's the biggest ward in Gauteng in terms of length. I welcome the establishment of this independent authority, and because it's going to have full-time officials, so that they can go and do thorough investigations and research when they do these demarcations. I don't think when they did what 105, Baile Lapana, and did a thorough research. From where I stay as a councillor, I travel around 64 kilometers to Langkloof, to where these gentlemen live. 64 kilometers. And it's a village of around 500, 800 houses. From where I stay, it's a township, around 4 informal settlements and 3 formalized areas. It's a population of around 24,000. And then there's another village called Kwasokulumi, where Undabezita of Kwanzuza stays. It's a household, there's around 2,400 households. And there's farm areas where there's pits and villages and people around those areas, all the way to Delmas, Victor Kanye. That ward is surrounded by 3 municipalities. There's Victor Kanye, there's Emalahleni, then there's Tembisilehan on the east. We're all surrounded by Mpumalanga on our far east, held to deliver services to the people in that area. One, in Tshwane, I'm sure you are aware, we don't have ward committees. Here in other regions, we have ward committees. In Tshwane, there's no ward committee. That means all the cries of those people, they come directly to me. And there's no bridge between me and the people. And unfortunately, when I came in, I came up with a proposal of creating WhatsApp groups for all the towns and villages there. Believe me, if I show you my WhatsApp, it's only those people complaining in those things. So I'm saying I'm grateful that you are establishing an independent authority that will be full time, that will not only come when the elections are here. They must always be there to check, are people really getting serviced? And this criteria of using the number of voters to determine a ward, it must be relooked at, especially in Gauteng. For example, in Gauteng, there's a lot of people, an influx of people coming from outside coming into Gauteng. Those people don't vote here. They'll tell us vote Kaya, vote Mahai, but they reside here. And when they want services, they want them here. And by a protest, by a toitoya. But when you determine the ward, no, only 12,000 people vote here. Only to find out the population there is 38,000 people. That's the case for where I'm living. There's over 40,000 living in Bronco Spruit. My ward is the whole of Bronco Spruit. But I got voted in by 4,000 people. But when people want service, I have to service over 20,000 people. Believe me, strenuous there. So I'm saying we welcome this establishment of the independent authority. And hopefully when it starts, it will start there in Bronco Spruit. Then I have a question that the establishment of this authority, once it's established, will it have a period where it will need to relook at some of the decisions that were taken by the previous board? If that's the case, the area of Metsweding is in comparison into Tshwane. That issue is still a thorn in Bronco Spruit. A lot of people still question, how did we get into Tshwane? Yeah, because we used to have our own municipality and district municipality. All of a sudden, a decision without engagement with the community, we're part of Tshwane. Now, a person from Langkloof, for him to travel to the city, where the municipality is sitting, it's around 100 and something Ks, if I'm not wrong. Now, that's the far end of the north. For them to come to Bronco Spruit is around 64 kilometers. To go to the city of Tshwane, where everything currently has been centralized, is around 100 and something Ks. Now, it's not justice to our people. We're not doing justice to our people with this demarcation and creating boundaries. So we welcome the establishment and this bill and hope it will pass before we go to the next local government election, so that those areas must be looked at and be redetermined so that we get proper services to our people. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the gentleman next to you was, yeah, then I've got the guy in front. Perfect.
Nginlotshise noken khona waphakathi. Lo nilotshisa ngo MJ Skosana. Ngokuhlala use Landkloof. Landkloof amawodi mabili kune ward 105 ne ward 38. Ikinga enginayo ke mina njengomhlali wase Landkloof. Nginenkinga yokuthi lo mngcele owenziwe lapha phakathi kweLandkloof kwabamngcele ombili kwaba yiGauteng neMpumalanga. Umngcele loyo ngathi uhlukumeza isitshaba kakhulu ngokuthi lapha ya izenzelwa na azikhona ukufika ama service kuhle ngoba abomasipala sebabili endaweni eyodwa. Ene bahlangene abomasipala ene leya mizi ayikwazi ukuba na umasipala ababili ngokuthi kusetshenziswa ini ibhohole amanzi aphuma kubhohole ene idamu la lawa amanzi abantu abawadlako lingaphakathi kweGauteng amabhohole angaMpumalanga. So manje lo mngcele owenziweko uhlukumeza abantu kakhulu. Ngiba ukuthi niqalisise le ndaba yalo mngcele ukuthi iGauteng neMpumalanga endaweni eyodwa, endaweni encane. Ene manje kunabantu lapha abangana gezi seyitandini zaseGauteng. Abantu abazi ukuthi umuntu bachinge kuphi. Njengobukhosi obukhona ngale ngeLandkloof. Na abantu nabeze ebukhosini bazokubuza ngamalanga ngelilo zabo ukuthi enhle kuthina siwela ngakuphi ngokuthi amanzi asinawo negezi asinayo thina siseviselwa ngubani ubukhosi nabo buhlangene ihloko ngokuthi lapha indawo zimbili manje bengibawa ukuthi nesikolo sakhona ikolo zi2 mara zingejardini eyodwa kuneGauteng neMpumalanga kileso sikolo ejardini elilodwa azikahlukani so manje ama-service ngikho angakhona ukufika ngokuthi na uqale ngapha eGauteng ukuthi kuzoza ama-service akezi na uqale eMpumalanga ukuthi kuza ama-service akezi iMpumalanga iyazama ithembisile maskini ithi ilungisa amapipe nakadabukile nayo ihlahla amehlo ukuthi mina nginamali iGauteng nawo ayingafaki isandla so manje kulezi ndawo lezi laba abantu badosa-dosana ngokuthi nomunye uqalile ukuthi omunye ukhona omunye uthi hayi mina ngikwazi ngoba izolongile kose kuyubani abantu bahlala bathaga ngamanzi ngiyathokoza.
Thank you very much. Let's get our last speaker in the front.
Thank you very much, my honorable chairperson. Echenglochisi isichaba sikaZimu ngithi bayete pula ya ngibonga ithuba nami ngilitholile kwasamanje isikhathi okhuluma la ufani ngesibongo wakaMbhele from eTshwane. I am a provincial organizer of Royal Leaders of South Africa here in Gauteng. Yazi ngifuna ukuthoma ngokubonga macange the latter speakers laba ba complain in terms of service delivery kuya nge bathi ngoma ward committees. It was important for you in this meeting to speak your voice out. Let them be noted there so that bazokhona ukudila ngazo. Next time babas, you must ask the very same question. Councillor eTshwane ngiyabonga mkhulu ne. Mina babu Giba ngicela ukubonga kuqala ipresentation mkhulu before ngiyakude. Ngijabulele kakhulu and but also there is a speaker in terms of indaba ze numbers 7 not okudlula i10. Forgetting mhlambe ino documentation ukufaka the subcommittees nami ngiyazicelela in his support because izonida ukuthi kube nama subcommittees umsebenzi ukhona ukubonakala on the ground. On the traditional leaders side we are having a serious problem. One, the invitation, more inviting cause, are inviting namhlanje for kusasa. And then in course you have to give him 3 weeks for 2 weeks. So that akhona ukuthi abe ne royal house yakhe abatshele ukuthi there is this bill kumele ukuthi iyophasiswa, what are your input, so that amakhosi beze ngama input wabo ichief ahambe ne spokesperson sakhe kube ispokesperson samakhosi esizokhuluma on behalf of inkosi yeah ngama input but not ngokuchallenge also no correct the way some of the points zabezibekwe ngabo. And number 2 is to request the documentation ngasemakhosini. As a provincial organizer, ngizocela uma ngiphuma la. Bayingabi for mina kuphela sesipinki and for others khona ukushiya ama email address because I see attendance register. I know my email address so that I can be able to give the whole royal leaders in Gauteng this presentation bakhona go through it. And on top of that, ngizocelela ukuthi submission date le I shiftele phambili so that we can have enough time to engage on this bill. As the ward committee members already alluded to, there are challenges that were not included there. Asikinekezeni spaces enough so that namakhosi enough bakhona ukubiza their royal houses, also bakhona ukubiza the community because of there are other councillors abangabiza ama meetings. Thina samakhosi will call meetings engage in our communities. Let me tell the truth. There are other councillors abasebenza under pressure because of abanye bethu in the communities. They are even scared to talk about our project as ago because of some other percentages. Babu Kiba and the chairperson Hassan, in this documentation, I see in terms of demarcation, ngicela ukuthi sifake indaba yama-clinics ingabi ipart demarcations. Because of last in Mamelodi there, ngihlangana nomntwana mbona mama kuma akakaphilanga kahle bengiya e-clinic. Bathi Nkosi can you please assist us here? Ngithi ngale. But nongiletha umama ngapha bathi umama doesn't belong in this ward. Kumele ukuthi ngimise in that ward because of i-clinic yakhe is in that ward. No, it can't be. A person can't die because of demarcations. It can be. Ngicela ukuthi nirelook on that. And also, the police station, i-crime iyenzakala la kule ward lengiyo. I know ukuthi this guy lo ichomi yale phoyisa leli. I decide to go to other police station. Ngiyobambisa lapha but they go back to that police station. Where is freedom? No, really, we are not free. That's why I'm tabling this. Ukuthi ngicela ukuthi nibhekisise singayidila ngayo demarcation, but when it comes to clinics, sesiphinki ne-hospital, I please you. Ngicela ukuthi asisibhekisini. Ya ngokusho njalo, the last one ngicela ukuyibeka ku-Cogta. There was this commission, traditional leaders and Khoisan. I communicated in Amakosi to come so that i commission ne-Cogta even case namakosi. Amakosi has applied for ukuthi wobani i-real inkosi in terms of the family tree, etc. But Babizile Amakosi, they did that. The few of Amakosi, bayitholile information ukuthi Amakosi are qualified. But others of us, they kept on asking me, Babumpele, now kwenzakalani? I become iba ngathi bengibayuza to call them to Cogta and the commission ukuthi bakhulume nabo kuphela. That was period. I please the Cogta, let them recall that meeting so that nami as a provincial organizer ngazi ukuthi umthwenyi lo inkosi or i-headman or kwenzakalani. That is my request. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take this last hand over here. Okay, let's take these last two hands. Then we're going to get some response. Before I do that, I think maybe Mr. Kekana, can I just see if there's anything else, then we respond once. I'm just going to see if there's anything else and we respond once because I don't want to go to a second round. Actually, we may lose everybody. So I'm counting 1, 2. I saw another hand there, 3. Going once, going twice. Those are the last 3 hands. Let's start with you, ma'am. Don't forget, you must introduce yourself and where you are from. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Ponto Mullo. I'm from Ward 13. I'm under Health and Social Development sector. Yeah, so now I just wanted to emphasize the point that my colleague has just mentioned, Zakele from Ward 13. He mentioned the fact that when it comes to that stipend, honestly speaking, it's nothing. What he's talking about, it's real. It's what I'm doing as well. I pop out from my own pocket, and then we only have 3 sections whereby we're supposed to report matters that we were encountering in our ward. Meaning, in Ward 13, we report our matters from Tembisa, Edenvale, and Kempton Park. So imagine, I'm on 1,000 rand, and I need to run all these 3 sessions to give out service delivery. So now, my plea now is that, guys, we are really tired of talking, honestly speaking. We are really tired of talking. It's about time we take action. We put things into action because we're promising community all these service deliveries, but nothing happens at the end of the day. And number 2, under a health sector where I'm based in Ward 13 at Itireleng Clinic, I'm facing a lot of problems in terms of, number 1, no ambulances around our area, but there's a depot that hired our vicinity to store their ambulances, but it cannot cater for people who live around. Do you understand? So that is a major problem because many people have complained regarding that. So now another thing, environmental. We need to clean our clinic, the surroundings. even inside. It's a problem. Even now, I can take you there. You know, the thing is that what I've seen is that regarding the top management, people who are making decisions about the demarcation, things that has to be done, they're not coming to the ground. We are on the ground. We are suffering. Do you understand? We're seeing the reality of things and of which we should take action into. So now another thing, service delivery, guys, let's just stop talking and give people service. Let's just keep talking, give people service. Because we've been talking, and I believe it's been many, many years. Even now, let's just give them service. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Sanibonani. Igama nguZinhle from Orange Farm Ward 1. My question, 1. What is the characteristics of a demarcation board? Number 2. Who is responsible for a demarcation? Number 3. What is a purpose of the Municipal Demarcation Act? Number 4. What is a constitutional mandate of a democracy? Number 5. You know, in my ward, to be honest, asinalutho. We don't have anything ebambekayo. Asina i-multi-purpose. La sizokwenza khona ama-meeting as i-ward. 2. Asina i-police station. Ingathini i-center for i-youth asinayo. Makunama floods, guys, it's a disaster. Kubhlungu. I remember last year, kuno mama oye washon because of itrati. Akuna ama drainage la kuzongena khona amanzi. Amanzi ahamba estradini owebha lekumele thina sihambe khona. Ibhlungu into eyenzeka eOrange Farm angifuni uqamba manga, it's like asirecognizewa. Angazi ngithini angifuni uqamba manga ibhlungu ngisacela ukuthi iCocta or I don't know whoever ake kangenelele eOrange Farm. I remember chairperson last year uye wathi ibudget iphumile, of which I failed to understand ukuthi makuzothiwa ibudget iphelile futhi kuthiwa kwakhiwa istradi sisuka lapha sizophela la thiwa sekuphela ibudget ukuthi what is that? Why kungathiwa makuthiwa kuyakhiwa istradi kungenwe iOrange Farm yonke sakhelwe istradi nathi siphile njengabo bonke abantu. Abantu abaziwayo it's like mhlawumbe kuphelela kubo Masowethu othembisa njengoba namanje silana. Mina ngikhumbula ukuthi i-legislator or i-Cocta sike sayibone Orange Farm. Asaziwa thina. Ngiyabonga.
We get the last speaker.
My name is Simthembile. My farm is Fetu. I'm from Orange Farm 15998. Phase 1 and 9. Ndifuna uveza ukuthi Orange Farm Orange Farm abanye Orange Farm abanamfundo. Abanye Orange Farm kanjengami angikwazi ufunda. Sihlala ezindlini siyadineka ezindlini. Ngicela nimvise kakuhle ezindlini siyadineka. Mina ndislow learner yangikwazi ubhala. Mhlawumbe kuyabhalwa endaweni kuyafundwa. Ngicela usizo. Mina ngicela usizo mhlawumbe nabanye bakhona banjengami bathetha ngezandla. Mhlawumbe bathi kuyabhuka endlini, too much in a house. Vele endlini kuyabhura endlini. Omnye abuzwe igama lakhe ubani akalazi igama kanjengami. Sifuna uncedo. Ufuna uncedo ugovernment angenelele ugovernment wethu angenelele Orange Farm. Sidinga ikliniki. Sidinga ikliniki, sidinga ogogo bethu bancedwe ngeepilisi. Bakhona bahlala ezindlini bafuna oxygen, bafuna uphila kodwa bayakhala. Kudala savotayo, kudala samela iSouth Africa ayinotshintsho. Sicela i-Orom Farm igcula isiganga, kulahlwa idoti, kulahla udoti, asinaklinikhi asinantoni. Sicela i-Orom Farm ijongwe, i-Orom Farm indlela usisi athetha ngayo sizinhle, cela i-Orom Farm ijongwe. Singabantu ucela umsebenzi, kuthiwa nakho umsebenzi uyaphuma, bathi faka abanye abantwana bakubo. Thina sihlala emva, hayi wena umncane awuthola umsebenzi, wena umncinci awufundanga. Why South Africa abuse? It's abusing this time. Amen.
Thank you very much. There's a number of things that have been raised. I think I'm going to hand over to Mr. Kekana. He's going to take us through some of the technical questions and matters around the bill, but also generally some COGTA issues have been raised. And then I'll speak to a few things after. But let me hand over to you, Mr. Kekana, first, and then you can see we have lots of pages of what's been said, and then we can take it from there. Over to you, Kiba.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Yeah, I think the majority of the questions were more service delivery related. And there were questions that related to the number that has been proposed, I think, for the board, which is not fewer than 7 and not more than 10. And those who raised the question linked it to the setting up of subcommittees. Subcommittees that can allow for further participation. Hari level la tabayo. Ready atlohanse. Kawaka la hore molao kakanyo, the proposed molao, the bill, e bolela ka board e tlo tsamaisang dilo tsa mokgatlo tsa this new institution called Independent Municipal Demarcation Authority. E boletse ka the authority itself as an institution, ya bolela ka board, ya bolela ka administration, ya bolela ka staff. So ke organization the way leng ka teng. Now, rena re tshwanetse re lebelle how we organize ourselves, because organized people respond better. So at the moment, re na le di stakeholders in the communities, community-based organizations and mara re na le tse di creatileng ke legislation go tshwana le di ward committees. So the ward committees go di thomileng ko teng ko conceptualization in the white paper. Ne dire ha go na le di member tse 10 ka mo ward committee, rena re le di member tsa ward re nnang ka mo community, re ska no kgetha batho fela, re kgethe batho go ya ka di sector gore ba kgone go re thusa ge go tswelela ditaba tse so. Ge ka mo ward committee go na le motho a specializer, wa kry-a gore ke retired nurse who specialize ka health, or retired doctor or something. Mara ke motho wa health, o tla go health, o understand health. So here na le motho mo bjalo, ge go na le engagements tsa o tshwana le tse, rena he re tla mo re le ba ko warding eo, re kgona go fa di inputs tse e leng gore di tlhaga ko di expecting. I'm sure I'm good with this. Because ke 10 members. So re ka se re ka moara ward committee wa batho ba 10, ra kgetha batho ba na le skill and expertise A1. I could have honored another plan as a ward committee. So it is very important because ke komolao o thomileng ka white paper or recreate the sectors. So here bolela ka di issues tsa bo demarcation board. Hey, re na le somebody wana le ntsebo go community nya rena e le hore o retire. You know, ba bang ra retire bona re mo agents hore. So batho ba retireileng ba teng. Ba bang ba bona o kry-a le hore ne bereka ko masepala o na bereka ko engineering company le engineer who understand dilo tsa planning. That person ha bereka le your ward committee or ha bereka le any other structure in your community, o tlo kgona go tseya act e a e tlhatlhamolla for what it is. And then for this ward, ke dilo tse so tse motho o mong di ka se tsamayeng pila ge ward e ka delimitiwa so or ge masepala o ka delimitiwa so, because e tlo kgata batho go ya ka criteria ke e berekisitseng. Criteria ya go ensure socio-economic integration, spatial integration, the spaces, infrastructure necessary to allow that municipality or e kgone go raise a revenue. So ke ntho e ke nyakang go e bontsha gore ya di-structure, I'm sure the team ya ko national ba ba ngwetseng bill ba tla lebella if go na le that part, but ka mokgwa ke e bonang le my knowledge and experience, yeah, how we have to interact. I think that was the one key. And then I'll move to the other one, related. I think the other issue that was raised, what we raised before, I think, gore go alafa taba e ya rena ya the community protest dissatisfaction ya the communities ka di issues tsa demarcation. E nngwe ya gore national le di provinces, everybody re tle le molao o, it is because re bone gore demarcation, it can either unite a community for prosperity or divide and destroy that community for underdevelopment. I think that was an important observation. That observation said, spend too much time in doing public participation. Tlhalosetsang batho, what are the benefits, the challenges that demarcation? E ra gore, because you can't be demarcated into something that is not working. La nkutlwisisa? Wa tseya dilo di masepala tse pedi that are not working, that are not functional, that do not have a tax base, that can raise revenue. E ke boletseng ka yone, wa di tlhakantsha. You can't put disaster and disaster together and hope to get something meaningful. So these things are very important. So all I'm saying here, let us use public participation. Let's organize ourselves. Let's prepare ourselves on the further consultations. Because when an opportunity, according to Chair, Baba Sabulelang, Lewa Bulleting, we can still go back and then La Mwala, La Romela Portfolio Committee, La Romela, the input, Italona, the issues. But for you to make a meaningful input, you should have knowledge of the subject matter. Agara utwana ne, sorry, our Kale for Society Demarcation Board. You know something else. So, we important or in that community, it's not a community about Botswana. There are young people who graduated in engineering. It could be civil, it could be any other engineering. Geography, way. They can help Ubukosi to put some of these comments into this bill about the demarcation. Because it takes into account a lot of things. I know what 105, Tate Piri and others, if we combine the other side, Yankangal and what, there's a potential mining issues there that should also be looked into, because that ward must be sustainable. People must work, including Municipal. So that is the one point that I wanted to raise. And then I guess these other issues that were raised relate to service delivery, and I'm sure we can respond maybe on another day on those issues. But there were very few issues that came directly in terms of the bill. But we also got support of the bill, I think, from Tate Piri, and then we also there were specific questions, and I think my colleague from National, because maybe just the change of voice and tone, maybe how will ela, because we started there at the beginning. The purpose here, the act, its mandate, I think it was put as in characteristics or criteria. So I explained this at the beginning of the meeting, but I'm sure if my colleague from National can just touch using a different voice and tone, I'm sure it can come out, really, e bulegile. And then later on after meeting, we're still available to help get the explanations. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much. Let's get some explanation also from National Cogta. Nhlamulo, is that you? Now I see your face and your name, I put it together. Come, maybe, I think maybe Nhlamulo, if you come here, it's easier for everyone to see you. Because remember, we're also live on YouTube. So I'm also, Jabu's checking there the comments. So there might be something that comes up.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Chairperson. Maybe initially I did not introduce myself, but because I was just roped in. To the members of the public, I am Shamulo Mate from Cogta under the Functional Unit Municipal Governance.
Hold on, let's just be sure. Are you managing with the sign language, or do you need us to move a bit? So Nhlamulo, come on this side. I
Okay,
think.
okay,
Sorry
let me-
about that. Yeah. Then be
Yes.
very accessible to everybody. You can even come sit here if you want.
Okay, okay. No, I'm
Thank you.
sorry for interjecting. What I wanted to indicate here, there was an issue about the board having to establish other committees. I want to indicate that that provision is there in the bill. If you look at clause 16, deals with gives an authority for the board to establish one or more committees that can assist such a committee to effectively perform its function. So it can delegate various functions that it deals with, including investigations. I hear there was a lot of concern and outcry about certain areas being redetermined without taking consideration of other aspects. So it gives the board to establish a special investigating committee that will look into that area before such decision can be made. So it does provide for that, but however, the board may not instruct or delegate a certain responsibility like that of establishing a municipality. So that decision lies with the board itself and may not be delegated to a subcommittee. So the issue around finances there, we were trying to clarify that the board can only receive funds through parliament, subject to the conditions of the National Revenue Fund. And the rationale behind that, the board and the nature of the work that it does, we wanted to run away to issue where it may be compromised by certain individual that might influence the board through sponsorship and other various aspects to provide such monies to the board, and of which in turn may tend to another unintended decision to be made by the board. So there was issue about, I'm trying to why are we using the number of registered voters as opposed to the population in the ward? The reason for this is that we were looking at what could be possibly be verifiable. You cannot verify the population if you don't have the number of registered voters, because that one you are sure to catch that these people have registered here and resides within that particular voting district. So that was the reason why, because remember, these things at the end are being verifiable, and you can even audit that because it's within that. There was an issue about, I understand Tswane does not have the ward committees, but I would like to indicate to the councillor that you are also sitting there in the council. You would know that it is within the prerogative of the municipality to choose whether it must establish a ward, it must have ward committees or not. So that may not be blamed to demarcation, that can be blamed to the council itself in terms of how it arrived to a decision not to have those ward committees. It also provides for further provisions in the Act that you can even have metropolitan sub-councils. So it is within the prerogative of the municipality to have those metropolitan sub-councils that will be closer to the community and to assist you in various aspects that you were referring to. There's also other issues that has been raised. I wanted to indicate that there are issues that lies beyond demarcation itself. I understand the service delivery issues. We have magisterial boundaries which are not aligned to municipal boundaries at point. Hence, you find a person not being able to access certain service in another ward or municipality. So there are also issues of provincial boundaries. Provincial boundaries is where the boundary now straddle to other province, as you've been indicating. There are those areas that straddle the provincial boundaries. They are there, I understand, part of between Tswane and Mpumalanga, we have those, but those does not require demarcation itself. Those requires constitutional amendment. You will have to amend the constitution to have that area back to Gauteng or the other way around. So the process there is being driven by the Department of Justice. It is the one that processes those. So if there's any request that relates to issue of provincial boundaries, may be referred there, but it follows a Section 76 process of the Constitution, wherein it must be supported by 6 provinces, and for it to be passed, for it to take effect. So it's a lengthy process, but it is a constitutional process. It's not mainly about the board redetermining municipal boundaries. The issue around, I think you have clarified the issue of composition. Yeah, there are issues about what committee issues, which is a thorny issue, I understand. Yes, yeah, which I understand. There have been a lot of similar complaints that were coming in the department in relation to that. I may not commit anything in respect of that because it requires some policy decision as well. If you check in the Structures Act, the Act says a ward committee is not amenable for receiving remuneration. It's how it is, but to receive an out-of-pocket expense. So for expenditures that are incurred, if you travel elsewhere, surely you should be able to be in a position to be reimbursed for that. Intention or the desire will be to receive a remuneration, but I think that is also something that has to do with some policy decisions. The issue of vastness, in terms of the vastness in a ward, part of the intervention that was brought in this bill is to for those exceptional cases like the one that you are indicating, and also the issue of splitting of community and wards. So now it gives the board not to be having to stick into the norm, which is 15% for now, to determine a ward. So now it gives the board, in exceptional cases like those that you've been mentioning, that sometimes it tends to split certain areas that seeks to divide the community. So to try and avoid that, it gives the board a leverage to also extend by another 15%, so that it can still stretch to cover those areas, depending on the issues that you make as part of representations that you submit to the board. So if it is deemed necessary that no, this might result in splitting of an area, it can be addressed through that. As I was also indicating in terms of the split of areas and communities, the intention is not to disintegrate communities. It's just that the community grows as and when we go on. In 5 years, you'll see in a ward there's now a lot of extended area itself and the population. So it's to try and manage, but while the board need to ensure that the community remains intact. So to also avoid frequent disruption of municipal that comes out as part of the frequent redetermination of municipal boundaries, this bill says now, if a ward delimitation process affects more than one ward, then that may only be done by the board or considered after 10 years. So the board will not be able to do frequent redetermination of municipal boundaries as it usually does. Now it limits the board to do so after if it affects more than, unless if it's a technical minor adjustment. So that has been taken care of. I think those were the issues. I think other issues were much more service delivery related issues. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a few things that I think we need to address. The first is these ones also can't completely run away from the service delivery questions. And I think it's important that we explain our role, because even though we're sitting on the same table, you've got legislature on this side and you've got the department on this side. And this is very important to understand, because our role on this side is three things. We create laws like this, the bill that we're looking at. We do public participation, which is very much exactly what we're doing now, public hearings, public interactions. And the third thing that we do, and this is the important one, is the oversight over government departments. So we're not the Department of COGTA, but we play oversight over them to try and make sure that they do their jobs. So we have different budgets, different people, different managers, different everything. But it's very important what you guys have said as the community, because often we come with legislation and we're so detached, don't understand that that legislation affects communities. And that's the point that everybody in the room has said, that even if this is a demarcation bill with all of its technicalities on boards and appointments and appeals, etc., it has real life effects on people on the ground. And this is exactly what we've heard. We've heard about even issues of water, of electricity. When your area is cut in half, who services it? And then you get the collapse of local government, and then it's multiplied, the issues, much, much more than they would have before. So for us, takeaways that we are taking, but also I'm telling the department to take, these service delivery issues are fundamental. And it was said by somebody on this side of the room that you can't detach those things. I know somebody said they don't care about demarcations. Those things are important, but I agree, service delivery comes first. But to do service delivery, we need to know which areas we are working in. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that in the process of our submissions, so from now, we're going to have another few public hearings, we're going to compile a report. That report is then going to go to the National Parliament, National Council of Provinces. And in that report, I'm telling my team, that's us, we are going to record your service delivery issues and link them and say, this is how demarcation is affecting communities. When there's a mall that's built instead of a clinic, this is what it means. When there are police stations that are cut between areas and they can't service on a normal day, they struggle to service the community. Now they have less issues. And we want to make that connection as Gauteng, because exactly what we've said, that these things don't happen in isolation to each other. We fully agree we need to strengthen public participation. A number of people you spoke to, but a number of people did. And it's beyond just a checkbox. That's why also today we've taken our time. You see, I didn't stop anybody. Even if it wasn't on the topic, even if you took a bit longer, I allowed it because this is exactly what it's for. Beyond a checkbox exercise, beyond just presenting. And that's why also Ntate Kekana also came with us, because we said we don't want to just throw the bill at you. What does it mean for us as communities? What does it mean for us as people? But we agree. And it's something that I'm hoping, we got an election just after that. If we have the privilege of coming back, that's something we need to push in the public participation unit, because it does affect how we deal with issues. So for example, people have mentioned councils, ward committees, all of these different issues. And the reality is that we don't directly deal with that. We play oversight of the provincial department. The council, all of your councillors, your ward committees, your MMCs, that's in the city of Joburg, that's the city of Tshwane, that's the city of Ekurhuleni. And we only interact with them when things go badly wrong. Then we'll summon the MMC or we'll summon the mayor. And all of that it happens after the fact. So we need to relook at our models so that even though we come, like it's ridiculous that we as elected representatives come to you and say, oh, this is a local issue, provincial issue, national issue. We need to work much better on our, what we call intergovernmental relations. So even though we're on different parts of the table, we need to work better together, and that we fully agree on. On a lighter note, you must blame the National Department for bringing the bill so late, because we were happy to deal with it before, they brought it late. And if they brought it earlier, we would have had more time to deal with a lot of these things, because we're also under pressure. If I tell you, around the country, we are sitting bills and hearings for bills left, right, and center, because a lot of them just came late. And that's no excuse, but it is something that we have to deal with as a pragmatic issue. We've heard you on the unemployment issues. I don't know if I still look like a young person, but I am a young person. And one of the big things that brought me into the seat that we're in now was the fight for access to education, was the fight of access to the economy. It's the fight of access for us as young people to have a say in our future. Because right now it feels like our future is decided for us and it doesn't look good. So that's one of the big things that we're pushing, even on local economic development, and a few people spoke to that. If you don't know, we've passed what we call the Township Economic Development Act. And the long story short of that is we're supporting local economic development. Your local spaza shops, your local car wash, your local goa and mama on the side of the road who's selling fruits and vegetables. How do we support local youth-owned SMMEs to take their businesses to the next level? Because that's how we're going to solve unemployment in this country. It's not actually, by the way, through big business. It's looking at these very important drivers of the economy. Agriculture is a big one. Manufacturing is another one. You can look at even interesting things that may be controversial here. The cannabis economy, that's a very big one now, on the processing of those goods. And if we don't act now, it's going to be another industry that's going to be white dominated, and that's going to be dominated by older people. So that's something that we need to look at. Even the green economy, another big thing. Someone spoke about power. Even though it wasn't directly relevant, I didn't want to stop anybody. Good ideas are coming from our communities. We hear you because you live every day in your own community. You know what works and what doesn't work. And that's why, even though it's not directly related, it means that next time we meet with the MEC or ESCOM or City Power, we're going to say, this is what happened in a community meeting. This was the idea that came forward. We agree we need to center communities in these processes and discussions. In fact, this bill speaks to that. It speaks to consultation with communities. And the prior legislation, it implied it. I think it didn't quite clearly give us as communities power to even veto a decision or appeal it. I've heard a lot of complaints. In this same bill, there's an appeals process that we want to be more transparent, that we want to be open to the public, that even us, if we have an issue, let's say we disagree with the decision of the department, even us as the portfolio committee can write an appeal and say, actually, why did you divide the ward in that way? It makes no sense. Our community members are saying all these different things about why it's a problem. So yes, there's provincial legislature, provincial COGTA, national COGTA, the department, national parliament, and then councils. So ward committees, all of that. And that's important because so many people spoke to the stipend of the ward committees. That is determined by council. Now that's a different battle that we now need to push and we need to fight. So it's not within our direct purview of what we can change, but it does mean we can go to the MEC who also can't change it, but that means we go to mayors, we go to political leadership. We say, actually, the people on the ground who are doing the hard work because of the lack of service delivery need to be better supported in different ways. So I can't guarantee that the amount is going to go up. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not one of those elected leaders. Then I come back later, you throw things at me because it was not true. But what we can say is that we'll take it forward. And beyond that, what other kinds of support? You said you're a social worker. You are a bankroller. You're looking after these goals. You're looking after a person who's been raped, etc. There should be served. In fact, they're just not working as well. Services within the state that help you. And that's what we also need to get right. So that even if we can't tomorrow increase the stipend, what are we doing to support you? What are we doing to support local young people in terms of community purpose centers? What are we doing from an e-gov perspective? That's another portfolio we look after to get ICT skills to young people. Learning to read and write is fundamental. That's the starting point. Those are things we need to close on. I'm just making sure I don't want to run away from questions, and I'm going to hand over in just a moment. But effectively, on this ward committee thing and the stipend, we need a systemic change, right? We don't want to just change it in one ward. We want to change it in the city of Joburg. We want to in fact, we want to change it in the country. Because everything you're saying, I can guarantee is being said right now in the Eastern Cape, in the Western Cape, in KZN. This is not a small issue. This is a very big issue. And Tlamulo, I know it's not directly relevant to the bill, but it's something we are tasking you to take back. And it's something that we are also going to engage with both the minister and the deputy minister, because I agree with you. You're community activists. You're doing the best that you can with very limited resources, and that shouldn't be the case. Civic education, and let me close by saying from my side, I know it's very difficult. And it's also very difficult for those of us here who work very hard and we also try. And I just want to say that we appreciate the work that you guys are doing. From our community activists on the ground, I know there's no thank you. I know there's not enough money to do it. I know how difficult those things can be. I know that your families often isolate you. You sacrifice so much in the name of our society and our communities. And I just want to say thank you to you, because I know not enough people do. So I'm going to give you a round of applause, because we know how difficult that process is. Right, and then I'm going to hand over to Honorable Ngube. She's going to help us tie together the conversation and close. So we know what we're going to take back to National Parliament, what we're taking back to the province, what we're taking back, like I said, national, but also some issues we can take locally. The challenge, I'll be honest, now that the election date has been set, we have a very limited time. Because people don't know this, before the elections, we have to do what we call rise. So basically, you're going to dissolve. So once we dissolve, technically our jobs are finished. We have to work to get re-elected. So there's a limitation in the next 4 weeks of what we can do. But that doesn't mean that the work stops. It doesn't mean that these are not things we're going to push on. These are just me being honest with you about where you are. And the very last thing is written submissions are still open until the 4th of March on this bill. And I'm encouraging you also, in the same way you explained it to us here, service delivery issues, community issues, civic education, all of those things are important. We'll sift through everything, that's our job. But say it, because it helps us. When I'm fighting with all the other provinces nationally about this change and that change, I'm going to say, these are what our stakeholders said in these communities, and this is why it's important. So nothing is not useful and nothing is off topic. Our job is to listen and to hear you guys. Thank you very much. Honorable Ngube.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Good afternoon, dignitaries that were here. I'll just add on what the Chairperson has just reflected to say some of the issues are service delivery issues, and we have noted them. However, as an advice also, is that communities have a right to do petitions and submit the petitions to the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. There is a standing committee that is focusing on all the petitions. What they do, they call the petitioners. They call the municipality if the issue cuts across. They call the municipality and they call the provincial department and then go through this petition to say maybe on several times the community has raised ABCD, and this ABCD was in your budget 3 years or 4 years back, but nothing is happening. So you then have to commit as these structures. You have to commit in terms of when are these things going to be happening, because we have already promised them in the state of the province or state of the municipality. They've said that and they declared the budget. So we have the right to do a petition. There's a chairperson for the standing committee, and there is a committee that deals nothing else with but with the petitions. So the whole question of the non-implementation of the IDPs, because as part of the procedure is that councillors must call the community and then you do the wish list. No, we don't have a multi-purpose center, we don't have the stadium, we don't have the library and all those things. So after that, the community would have raised all those issues. The councillor takes these issues of the community to the council. And then in the council, then you find that there are many wards. So in terms of where does money go to and all those things, what it then needs to happen after the slicing of the budget is that councillors must go back and report to the community that, hey, we are placed far at the tail of the budget. Maybe in 4 years' time, this will happen, but not everything that you would have said in that ITP. So the constant feedback is needed. So the community understands ukuthi ay asikakabalwa la. Mhlampe sobalwa nini. Makufika lo period, you need to also know. You said, you promised us that after 2 years, you will address this thing. How far are you? So it's your duty also to advise the councillor to say we need a feedback, we need progress report about that. The other thing also, as the honorable chairperson was saying, that we are not departments, so we don't handle budgets, Tina. And what then happens is that the person that gets the anger of the community are councillors, because they are on the ground. The promise that was done by the president, the people want that promise to say, where is that hospital? Where is that TVET that the president promised? Promises that are done by ministers, get back to the councillors. And people throw stones to the councillors or ourselves as right here. Ekokosi, when there's a human settlement, the community, they closed the doors. They said we are the same, whether we are legislature or the department or MCs or what, we are one according to them. And they don't know that as parties on the sand, but we are your eyes and ears. When we hear this, we say, okay, let's escalate these things. The community of whatever is saying ABCD. So when I've indicated that you have the right of doing the petitions, also there are parliamentary constituency offices in the zones. Those offices also, they work. They take the issues of different areas where they are being deployed and they must raise them at the legislature. I'm going to talk about the legislature, not the municipality. We raise them in the legislature either through the questions, either through the motion, and or when we debate, we make examples about the areas that were coming from. Last in December, I was talking about Alex, the 2 wards in Alex where there are problems. So we also escalate your issues, but we don't have power of forcing the executive, we say that. The premier, we don't have a power, but we keep on making noise. Say the community is asking ABCD. You have promised ABCD. When are you going to solve that? So that's where lies the problem in terms of the demarcation of our responsibilities. Um, other issues that you have raised, they need also that you put the issues that talks to the demarcation. Those scenarios you have, the 64 kilometers and all those things, that needs to be looked into. You have said it that people must not draw the demarcation according to the numbers, because the numbers will fool us in terms of the distances, 1, 2, because on the map it may look not far, but practically and physically you find that that's very far. And what happens after that? During municipality elections, you find that people, they know that I normally vote in this particular VT, district station. Then when they get there, they're being chucked away or turned back to say, no, 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 you are no longer voting here. You must go to wherever. I want to make an example. I was deployed at Randburg Zone 14. So we're there during elections. Many people in 3 districts. You find that a person in Diepsloot is being displaced to Bramley. And you ask this person, have you ever worked at Bramley? No. Have you ever stayed in Bramley? No. So how did it happen that the demarcation then takes you from where you stay, jumps all the VTs and VT stations, and then throw you there? So that those challenges that they happen, we don't know how does it happen. So those things, they need to be constantly raised in public meetings, in your political organizations, in the public meetings that the premier, the MECs, and the ministers are doing, so that they hear these voices other than us, because sometimes they think we are fabricating issues. That's not the truth, what we're saying. So the other thing is to say the budget. Also, when they declare this budget, they must indicate to say, no, for now, we're slicing this budget according to these areas, so that the community understands that no, it's going to come to us. So keeping to the promises and constant feedback to the people, that is very key. Feedback budget. And there's an issue of Amakosi, or the land where Amakosi are. We've been trying as this committee with Swane. We know that 2 clinics, very beautiful outside, and others, the facilities are there. But up to now, they're not handed over to the community. The community are just looking into those buildings. And we're saying sometimes we'll find that people will just be creative and then come and sleep there. And when they sleep there, they will have a metatombe to a clinic, because they will say, Dala swapegile, buildings. Why are we not having access to these clinics? We keep on raising those things. So the question of Amakosi, the municipality, the portfolio of the legislature and the portfolio of the municipality, portfolio, and then the Amakos. There has to be that engagement to have this thing to say, because the municipality will say, we're not gonna do services in this land because it is not proclaimed or it is not zoned. But who has power to proclaim and zone that? It's the council, it's the chamber that is supposed to be proclaiming. Nobody else from heaven that is supposed to do that. So it can't be delaying the people because of indecision in terms of what proclaiming. And people that are staying there, they also need water, they need electricity, they need schools, they need library, they need everything. So the question of understanding that this has to happen, like abaselokishini nabakuphi were same people that need basic services. So that is an issue of which keeps on hanging and repeatedly saying these things as if maybe we're not listening, but we don't know where lies the problem. So hence, I'm saying these different parties must be together and discuss this thing up to its final course. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mube. Right? Anyone with a translation device, please lift it up for me. Right, let's collect all of the translation devices. Right, let's make sure the team does that now. Two things, lunch is here. Mam Tombi is about to explain how it's going to work. Members, we also have lunch. I think it's in a slightly different area. And then submissions are open until the 4th of March. Thank you so much for your patience. Mam Tombi is going to explain to us the lunch process.
Hello. Thank you, ukuthi nibe good audience. Even though iholo belishisa, we had a challenge with our aircons, our sebenzi. But khona manje ngizocela ukuthi si-observe i-protocol, sizocela ama-members asukume, everyone uzokuthola ukudla. Ama-members azosukuma, bazoba director, ukuthi bayadle laphi namakhosi. Angithi siyazi ukuthi siphethwe izwe lamakhosi. I-COGTA, because we are COGTA and i-Gov. Siphinde siniphathele nama-phone. Then masiqeda, ngicela ukuthi everyone uthatha ukudla uphuma nakho, everything sekupacked, ne-cold drink, then you'll go to emotweni so that zinganishiyi, i-transport inganishiyi. Umuntu uthatha ukudla aye emotweni lapho eze ngayo. Yeah, baphuma la. Nizophuma la nithatha ukudla, but okokuqala sizocela le tafula leli kuqala lisukume namakhosi baphume. Then after that thina sithatha ukudla sesiye emotweni zethu. Nina niya la. Siyabonga. Ngicela ukuthi kuqale kuphume itafula eliphambili. And please, lezi zinto lezi mawuyithathile ayisebenze ekhaya, iphelele izobe useless for wena. Izobe idlala abantwana, akusiyi iphone. Cela nishi. Remember, uzon director